Oh shit. One, two, three. Wait, camera's not up. One, two, three. Alright. Wow, we're gonna be reviewing FNCS camera. I heard it's with the body reviewing. Heard it was crazy, bro. Crazy. Reviewing FNCS camera. What's the blood monitor? Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. We're gonna watch this together. I should have loaded it up as soon as I got home, but like, uh, my bad. Let me get my where's my tablet at? Gotta get these VODs up. Gotta get these VODs up, guys. I think it should be fair use for YouTube too. It should be fine for Twitch. Should be fair use. Add the commentary and stuff. Just be chat. Just all right, guys. We live. We live. All right.
The map is somebody's got to figure something out and fast because
Full
there is a lot of
full
craziness
transparency.
that
I've
took
watched.
place.
Exactly, that's where
I've
we
tuned
got
something
eyes on here to
already.
kick it off. We've got
Streaming
Mr. Savage,
Fortnite.
kind of in a
EU
50-50,
FNC.
tested on that snowy mountain down at the southwest. Masked Meadows as well, potentially contested. And, you know, Mini Miner was talking about Magic Mosses, how popular it is of a POI with that black market. The only black market to offer chug splashes and, you know, like the other ones, a good amount of
Yeah,
heals
guys.
to
I
play
can
out
see us is
before
live.
the mid games.
This is my
That's
favorite
also
time
going
of
to
the
force other
season.
teams to kind of want to poke their head over, possibly much earlier than what Green
Trying to get
Bay's
my
team
TikTok
would
shut
definitely
up.
want to be
Don't know why
dealing
it's
with.
not going
This
out. It's weird. Can't search
Sangil, Jewel, and
myself.
Tidy, they'll have to figure that one out later
That's
on.
fine.
But Prax, Group A, Glubshy, things are looking about as you would
Yeah.
expect. Not
Paco is
contested.
talking, bro.
So they're just trying to focus up, gathering what material they can. waiting for an opportunity to strike because these
I'm
teams
not
are
really
going to have
familiar
to
with this
focus
team
on
picks,
their
Sampire.
surge damage.
Okay.
A little bit of trouble brewing here.
Focus already
Possibly
got a
at
kill.
Outlaw Oasis, Strokey and Janice.
I know who he killed.
Focus. They're all just trying to keep tabs on some of their neighbors
Whoa.
in the area. But
Wait,
what's this?
what is Vico and Pixie doing over there?
This is not Mass Meadows.
Whoa, wait.
And it doesn't appear as if Janice
Wait,
is
are they supposed to be Mass Meadows?
For Strokey already going to be
Damn.
immediately eliminated. Vico now looking
Wait,
to close
they
in
changed up
with
their
the
job?
rest of his team. This
Oh,
is
he
not
cooked.
what
Giannis is
anybody could
cooked.
possibly expect
Yeah,
here, and
oh my
Giannis
god.
just added
Giannis
to the
is cooked,
count,
bro.
3 quick eliminations.
Giannis
Talk
is
about
cooked.
Surge, Vico, Veno, Felix,
What?
they
No,
just
what
manifested it
is
so
Vico and
quickly.
Pixie doing over here?
Talk about surprises.
Vino.
They already got 4 elims on
What are they
the
doing over
board.
here?
Taco 11 was talking about it. He
4
said, I was
elims.
speaking with BloodX.
All right, we
I
need
was
to
speaking
see a
with Veno. All I'm
replay.
saying is they're
I
going to do
wanna-
something
I don't know
different.
if
They're
they're
going to do something
streaming.
to
I
surprise
should check if
you.
they're streaming.
And that is exactly
You know what?
what we have just
I want
witnessed.
to check if Vico and Pixie are streaming because that's crazy. I wonder where they got the kill
What
from.
I'm
If they're on
thinking,
Twitch, I'm
Taco,
not
is,
able-
you know, they
I'm
are
not gonna
on
be able
this
to
kind
read
of west side
find
outlaw
it.
Oasis part of the map. There's a lot more trios that are contesting each other as well, and not, you know, taking into account the uncontested ones that tend to look into this area for tags later on. But I mean, after Veno,
I'm rooting for Veno and Pixie and Mr.
They've
Savage.
already
So,
knocked out
like,
2 trios, so
I want
they have more
Veno
than
and
enough surge
Pixie
and don't really have to
win.
worry
If Mr. Savage can
about
win,
getting
I
into
doubt it.
these fights.
But if he
For
can win, I would
Juicy,
prefer them
Andy,
to
and
win.
Finchak, you
just
originally
like Veno, I don't
believed
know
that your
why.
only opposition is going to be dealing with Janice, Focus, and for Strokey. Now knowing that there's a wild Veno just tossed into the mix potentially, really want to see whether or not that actually continues, because it almost is a little bit reminiscent of another player in this lobby's type of strategy. So Raz and Venom may have just cooked up something incredible.
Yeah, because
Early game
like that was
success, though.
surprising because
Still
they weren't supposed to be
working out
there.
as far as Lone Wolf Lair
Nobody expected them to be here.
and Wax, Malabuka, Ping. They're kind of just waiting, gauging whether or not someone's actually going to try and challenge them. Doesn't seem to be the case though.
Now, I did see on the Elim feed, and we can see as well, Reason has an elimination, and I believe even Savage got a knock earlier on.
Oh, Savage got a knock? Alright, Mr. Savage, get
I
him.
don't think I saw Awahara
Get him,
getting
Savage, get
eliminated,
him.
But it seems like they have kind of won that original off-spawn 50-50 here at the Mountain Split. And, you know, earlier on we thought they might even get
on,
the
Savage.
southern side uncontested.
Let's see if
as
you can get a
well.
top 2. I want to see
But
you in land, Savage. I want to
Kate
see you in land.
and Ivan and his trio are landing there, so they're a little bit more limited on loot, but even so, they've got a lot of cars to work with. It's going to give them a lot of heals. It's going to give them potentially chug jugs, and now that they've started off with a couple eliminations in terms of damage, I'm kind of excited to see how this continues playing out, even keeping in mind, Taco, that now, you know, Masked Meadows is probably uncontested, seeing that Vico, Veno, Flixie decided not to go there, which might change
Let's
up
want them
their
to win.
surge plan
Come
a
on.
little bit.
Problem that was really
Exactly.
starting to build though is what happens
'Cause I-
after
I
the fact.
swore
Big
Vico and
Benton,
Veno
sure
were gonna
you
be
claim it initially,
in Masked
but
Meadows.
still
I was
have
so
to deal
surprised
with
when they were not
actually
there.
making it out. And
But they got that
with
4
teams
eliminations,
like
so it seems
Mixon,
to have
Combat
paid off.
Blaha holding down such a high elevation here at Shining Span.
Lahan Mixer, they went crazy
We've
in
seen
groups. Like, they went
notoriously
crazy.
a lot of
They were
surge
just beating
bases
everybody.
kind of peaking up throughout the early game. So many teams just fully understanding the kind of advantages that can be provided from those high viewing perspectives. And Mixon, Combat Blaha, though, don't seem to have had much luck.
Yeah, I mean, they got 14th in the major finals last season,
So
and they were at the
tore
same
up
drop spot uncontested,
pizza,
so
they tore up qualifiers,
hopefully we'll
so
see a similar performance
be fine.
this time around. For Vanya, Marius, and Pixie, this is going to be an interesting one. A lot of people have high hopes for this trio. They've been performing incredibly well throughout the season in the divisional cups, and you know, they have a very good shot as well to doing just as good as a performance here in the major finals. But to do so, you got to make it to the late game, and for that, you're going to have to get enough damage.
Gonna call a spade here, though, Takata. These teams are just interested in exchanging the initial blows from the safety of their surge bases. Everybody kind of just building up all of their heals. Marius, he's even got those small shield potions behind him. He's not that concerned about eating a little bit
Marius
of return
with a
fire.
deadly
As long
aim.
as he's able to establish the damage that he needs to for his trio, that's what's going to set them up in the best position possible once they actually start making their way out of Flooded Frogs. But how things are currently shaping up really does appear as though trouble could be exactly what Artis,
Yeah,
Dexy, and
Artis,
Huddy are looking
is
for.
that Blaha?
Cheatin' currently on the escape route, but he's just being trailed too quickly. Huddy, Artis, just looking to close off every possible escape angle here, and now they're just gonna tackle 3x3 up against the walls. Still not able to break in just yet. Cheatin' finally going to be knocked and eliminated. That's 2 in total for Artis' team. Still hoping if they can find the last piece of Cheatin's team. But whether or not they get that final elimination, Takata, the damage has already been done.
Yeah,
they got
they
the
have good
damage they
surge.
needed.
They should have good surge.
That
as
they
well.
did. It's interesting though,
Endgame.
because they were originally contesting Kappa Kappa, but they ended up just fighting at Hopeful. But if we look back at Ivan's trio, this is the trio landing directly south of Mr. Savage, and you know they've got a pretty good drop spot, but in terms of loot, it's not the best in the game. So this fight could be crucial to them, Taco.
Things are never ideal, though, when you've got 2 teams kind of duking it out at Shogun Solitude. Hellfire just trying to make sure that he keeps tabs on his walls. Ivan still trying to apply a decent amount of pressure here, but no luck so far. Doesn't want to get overzealous, doesn't want to find himself being double peaked in response. Cade trying to open up with a separate approach now. Strapped Hellfire Tripper, and they're making the right call, looking to play as tightly linked
I don't
as
know these teams.
possible.
Who's that? Oh,
But
Man
still,
City. I saw him. I
Arion
saw
from
him.
above
Okay.
could be a serious threat here. But so long as Strapped and Hellfire are sitting together, they are not going to let Cade pressure. And if they recognize that he's isolated, they might actually choose to just go. Arion, gotta be real careful here. Nearly lost the floor from underneath himself. Hellfire, Strapped, Tripper, they've definitely been a little bit beat up here. We're gonna have to take a moment to try and pause and heal, and that's gonna be the real signs for Cade to continue just battering up against these builds, just trying to break through.
Cancel the rules, I can see
Normally, if
cancel
you
the rules.
think they're in zone, you know this is bad. They got to finish this up. But the way this season is played out, I mean, there's so many heals, not only on the map, but just items available to you that it's okay to take these storm fights. It's okay to rotate late in the storm. You have the med mists, you have the chug jugs, you have everything you kind of need to be able to tank this storm and take a late rotate. So for Ivan, Cade, and his trio here, they don't really have too many problems. They don't have to rush anything here,
surge.
as they're doing a good job of kind of getting damage done when needed. Another kind of note is I believe Tripper was originally going to land at Kappa Kappa, so seeing him here at Shogun Solitude is interesting. A lot of quick mix-ups.
Yeah, we're gonna be watching to this
so far,
all the
both
finals,
trios have
guys.
done a
I'm
good
gonna
amount of
be
damage.
streaming all the finals.
Gotta
watching.
do what you gotta do to try and find your surge after all. But Cade, big blow. That's gonna be a massive exchange here. And now
That's a hard
Ivan,
hit.
Aryan, Force, scrambling. They come together. They find Hellfire, but still, Strapped, Tripper, and they
Okay,
look
we
so
lost
much
Cade.
healthier. Tripper didn't initially have the materials he needed to draw this fight out. Now he's definitely got them. Thanks to that last refresh, might even be able to get the revive off, but Strapped, he's got to play defense. He's trying to create some space. He gets a big tag onto Ivan, nearly finds the full finish, but Ivan, he's gonna scramble on out of there. Hellfire still knocked, still waiting for one of his teammates, maybe now both of them, to go for the full revive. Aryan has been fully eliminated, and Ivan is going to be the lone survivor, but both of these teams, Takata, even if Ivan manages to get out, it's still such a difficult
damage has been
situation
done.
because they are way out there on the southern west portion of the
Yep,
map
and
compared to everybody
they have
else.
enough heals.
Yeah, there's so many kind of players that are going to be waiting for them. So hopefully a good rotate will be planned out.
This
for
guy's in
Misha, though.
trouble.
He has to be careful.
Oh, it's RIP.
You got
It's
Davis
the-
and
it's
Hicks
done.
going
He's
right into
marked.
your
He's
box.
marked.
It's not a duo that
Wow,
are going
he
into
missed a
Davis misses
what?
his shot, ends up getting knocked down from the 2v1
Bro,
to now
what
a
the
1v1
hell?
for picks. The Chug Jug is going to get popped. 2 Chug splashes along.
Bruh, that man might have just choked their
in a split second.
He has
As it looks like
choked
other
their
trios entered
NCS,
the
bro.
mix.
What the hell?
Tidy's gonna cause
How
some
did he miss
real
that?
issues there potentially.
I might have missed it,
and
but I'm
Joel
gonna prove it.
maybe even scouted out the fact that Misha is all by his lonesome. He's just gonna sit quiet as ever, hoping, praying that nobody bothers to look down and see this single player all by his lonesome, boxed up at the bottom of this bridge. Tragic stuff though for
He just
Davies.
missed the shot, bro.
Beyond rare sight to see
Exactly.
him with a shot in that close of proximity, but
Yeah, that's crazy.
goes to show it happens to the best of us.
It does. Respect to Misha for holding his ground. Unfortunate for missing his shot there. Or well, Demas missing his shot. But, you know, we've talked about it. Their first major finals, now into their second major finals. Maybe a little bit of nerves. We'll see how it plays on. It's only game number 1. Chicho, Haris, and
Well, that's
Tayson.
game number 1. That
Now
they could have
originally
got more points on.
contested
Well,
by
they're not
Chap,
totally
Kimi, and
eliminated,
Scavi. I
but
wonder how that's going to change up
really
with Vico,
damage
Veno, and
there.
Flixie kind of in the mix now in this area.
Their
But
flow.
we saw the fight earlier on the west side by Shogun Solitude. Now maybe in a bit here, those trios will have to rotate in, and Tayson, Chicho, Haris have set up perfectly to kind of take shots onto them as they rotate into zone. If we're thinking about kind of those clusters that happen around the map where a lot of surge bases end up getting built and trios have to rotate on through. On the other hand, though, battles in the storm are continuing to play out.
And this is kind of what we were expecting to see. It's definitely what the desk was alluding to. Mini and Levin both specifically highlighting the fact that those black markets, there are just so many heals, so many resources to gather. And even if you don't directly take them, you know that there's going to be other teams looking for those opportunities. So you could try to clear those teams instead and just yoink all the goods from them via eliminations. Combek, Mixon, and Blaha seemingly might have had that in mind. They're kind of just hovering the outskirts of Magic Mosses, but for the most part, haven't really been able to manifest something outside of that early elimination. Cheat and Trexer and Robin, though, just south of Mass Meadows, and this could be the danger zone. Only 92 above the current surge threshold. They've got 2 other trios separated in front of them, but no shot's going to connect. They're going to have to continue paving their way forward, but they're also just trying to be so wary, knowing that there's teams trailing them. They can't really afford to not throw up a little bit of materials, a little bit of builds behind them as they leave.
There was a 68% increase of time spent in Storm compared to the last season. And I mean, you can see that happening right in front of you, largely due, like you mentioned, Taco, to those extra kind of heals being available in the black market and, you know, opening those opportunities to get that Storm Surge in what you could say almost a safer location with less trios. But at the point where, you know, a majority of the trios are playing the Storm route, it kind of starts getting questionable at a point. But it looks like Trexer, Robin, and Sheetan are 138 below, so they don't have too many options. They have to kind of put themselves head first into these trios that are already kind of based up and waiting for them. So it is going to be difficult to find a way out here.
I don't know how Vico, Mr. Come on, get over to Mr.
Twy.
Mr. Savage and
This
Vico.
is an unfortunate
Wow.
circumstance.
He looks like
Tayson,
he's
Atris, though, they've lost Chicho.
Bro, you're gonna get murked,
They're
bro.
forced to try
You're
and
murked.
brawl their way out of this as a duo. Fortunately, team surrounding them, not necessarily in a very healthy spot either. I see Twy, but I don't see his comrades anywhere near. Ricky, he just got sandwiched.
Whoa.
And absolutely smothered.
gone.
But Atris,
Wait,
he's
he's
gotta be
just-
careful. He's just
oh,
trying
I
to
thought he
hold
was
his
gonna
zone,
escape.
and he gets dogpiled in the process. That's going to be 2 players knocked. Now it's Tayson looking to keep things going. You can tell, though, Belusi definitely hurt. Belusi definitely
Tayson,
desperate to try
Tayson really
and
having
close in
that
on
good
these
of
final
performances
eliminations.
lately.
But Tayson,
Tayson
he's not going to
fine.
let him have it for free by any means. He is
Ooh, good
defending
shot.
Atris, and
Can he pay for the
successfully
reboot?
so.
Oh, his sister's right there.
Finding that Elim onto Belusi could not have come at a better
there's
time.
somebody else
Now
in
he
there?
can take this 1v1 exchange up against Twy, who was hoping to pounce at a more optimal moment. Instead, Tayson, he might even look to just play for the revive, ensure that he's got his duo to at least tag along with him for the duration of this match.
I mean, Tayson heard the
fair
crack
enough.
onto Twy, meaning it was, you know, either a team shooting him from afar or more likely Storm Surge. So he knows he cannot let Twy do damage to him right now, as if he kind of just waits it out, it should be able to tick Twy down enough to even maybe fully eliminating him. So it's a lot safer and a better option here to play for that revive.
Oh,
But
did he get it?
you gotta take those shots when
No.
they're opened up to you, and as time goes on, he's gonna
Alright,
be
good
forced to
one.
play the Med Mist. Twice just one shot away from getting
Oh,
eliminated here,
twice
but it
not
looks like
easy enough.
if he isn't able to pick up Atris here in the next second, he is going to go down. At the same
Atris
time,
is
picks up
gone.
the elimination onto
Oh
Twy, but
my
now
God.
it's going to have to look for a
was
reboot
annoying.
to bring his team back into the match.
Tayson is cooked off of that one. All he wanted was to get Atris back with the revive, but Twy just pestering him non-stop.
Yeah,
Even
man,
with Tayson
Seti.
securing the elimination,
Koala
doesn't necessarily
Kings.
put him in a better spot to finish out game one. Seti, Cammy, and Hari, on the other hand, this is a trio that a lot of eyes have definitely been on leading into this weekend, just because we all know what took place in Major One Finals. We all try not to talk about it as well. But Seti, Cammy, Hari, if there's a team that loves surge basing, it might be them. Squeeze, Potasai, and
Other side.
Artskill.
Oh, wait, they have Storm Surge.
And Jewel,
They
and
get
they are
Storm
paying
Surge.
the
Oh my
ultimate price
God.
with their lives here
They're
at
below the
Flooded
damage
Frogs.
threshold.
Completely
They're
cleared
they're
out.
below the damage
Jewel,
threshold.
Shangyld, and Tidy needed this one, and managing to find it.
That's
Still,
that's
two-tick
unfortunate.
zone. They've got to get a move on out of this storm.
It's a tough position to be in when you're at the point where you have to be the aggressors due to being low on surge. It's a really difficult fight to kind of come out with the upper hand on. And when you're just playing defensive like Tidy, Julian, Sanghild, you can normally get that quick cleanup. You more have to make the changes before you get to the point where you have to take that fight while you're below, but it's difficult. This is a major finals lobby. The amount of damage needed to be above that surge threshold is incredibly high. For Julie, Sanghild, and Tidy now, though, they've kind of done their damage. They've got their eliminations, and they're fully north. So here, being in that kind of advantageous position of already having the damage, they can take a longer rotate, stay in zone a bit longer if it means rotating into the dead side of the map with less trios kind of based up looking at them. For Thomas, Panzer, and Upple, though, they are already in the zone.
I
Ready
shout
to
out
take
to
shots if
Partner
the trios are
Competitive.
rotating
We're
in.
restreaming from them, guys. So shout out to
Thomas
them.
rocking
Always give credit to
that
the original
mythic drum
creators.
gun. We've seen exactly how potent he can be whenever this is in his hands, and already
Wow,
making good
rip.
use of it, lighting up teams that are looking to rotate
Alright,
on this
Vico and
face. Vico,
Flixie.
Benno, and Flixie. It's been a minute.
Uh-oh.
But-
since we've gotten to check out what they've
oh
been up
my
to.
God, it's a
Show.
massacre!
Poor man,
Oh
with
my
Natures.
God.
Tayson goes for
3
the reboot
kills.
and doesn't get any of the
Oh, that
benefits.
was
Vico,
Tayson?
though, that is a
Oh my
massive
God. What, Vico got knocked?
from seemingly out
Oh, they're
of
gonna get him
nowhere.
up. They're gonna get
Flixie
him up.
and
They're gonna
Benno
get him up.
close enough though that they can play for the double revive, but this is going to slow them down. They do
Not
have
really,
an ample
because
amount
they
of
have-
builds
they have 7
materials,
kills.
but they were clearly after a priority position towards the next
Oh,
zone, even
yeah,
if it
that
meant
might be
playing
true.
for a dead side wraparound. Now they're going to have to
is that, though?
reconsider their next move, because teams know that they've been weakened, and Kido Vocal, they're not willing to let Flixie Vico and Benno just
Alright,
pass
no.
on by.
Alright, no. This is gonna be a
All
bad for
getting
them.
a little bit
Yup.
tangled up here.
They're
underneath
just gonna
the brain of
massacre
Volko.
Vico and
Kido,
Flixie.
this is a
They're
2
too
versus
much
3
fighting power.
scenario, and it's something
There's
that
too
they
much-
don't
there's
want
too much
to
fighting power
have to
there.
commit to if they don't
Yeah,
have
but-
to, because both of these teams fully
Oh.
understanding, hey, we don't really need to fight this. We need to get our positioning on lock.
Yeah, this is 7th zone. This is where that storm damage kind of becomes more of an issue.
Ah,
at 5
Mr.
ticks
Savage!
per second in the storm, so they can't
Yeah,
be taking
well,
these
Kido is
fights,
still in, Mr.
especially when
Savage
they're
and
low on
Bino is still
heals.
in,
They
yep.
need to focus on getting into
Come
the
on,
zone
Mr. Savage. Oh.
and not kind of playing more like
They're
you would
getting
in the
focused.
mid-game, taking those storm
They already got
fights,
31
even if it
points,
costs you a lot of materials. So good job rotating on in here. I mean, let alone 7 eliminations on the board already for this trio. All they really need to do is make it to the end game.
The start was definitely some foreshadowing in terms of how active Vino, Vico, and Flixie
Marius.
actually intended on
Yeah.
being throughout game one. Marius, Vanya, and Pixie, though, a little bit hurt here, Takada. They're
They'll be
boxed
fine,
up
though.
for the
They're
time
good.
being, but that
Yeah,
was the
but the damage
last of
threshold,
Marius's
so-
Chug Jug. Right now, what they're hoping for is that they can find an immediate
well above the damage
refresh. They'd
threshold, so
like
they'll
more
be fine.
material. They're going to need the hard mats as well if they have any intentions of trying to play for height. And the way that the zone is starting to pull upwards towards elevation, Cammy, Seti, and Hari not too far behind them. Queasy's team clearly already trying to elevate themselves just a cut above the rest of the lobby.
Yeah, I mean,
Mustache.
although they don't have the elevated position yet, they are on that 50-50 pull for 8th zone. Will they look for it early on? Will they not? What I'm thinking here is there's a large mountain that could potentially have the zone pulled towards. And if that does end up happening, it's going to make the rotate that much more difficult and kind of meaning you're wasting mats if you're building up here. So instead, they are going to decide to just get more deep into zone, kind of on the uncongested side of 8th here. So no high ground plays yet, but it's just a matter of time.
It's Mr. Savage.
Queasy knows full well that
oh,
Ari,
damn.
Cammy, and Seti just had the advantage.
Vino is
but
right.
The way that Mixing
And
Combat
Mr. Savage are
looking
right
to
near
play
to each other.
Disruptor towards
I
height.
don't want
They
Mr.
want to
Savage
go
try
to
to Vino
secondary
and
height position, but there's
Vico.
a
He's
lot
going to
of
lose
lobby
that.
focus headed their
Oh,
way.
wow, Vino went
Marius,
down.
Vanya, Pixie, they were trying to tussle.
I'm rooting
some
for
of these teams
both.
in the low ground.
Alright,
They find
Marius is
themselves
cooked.
now on the receiving end. It's
That
only
cow has
Marius
become
that's
beef.
alive, and he's just trying to dash on out of there. The
That's going to be a good steak.
put him ahead, but he is just
Marius is about to
building
become
for
a
his
steak.
life, hoping
Yeah.
that no one recognizes that he is a solo. And with Reason's team just on the other level.
Come on,
of
Mr.
this
Savage.
current layer,
Marius is right there.
Marius, it doesn't have
He's
any
there
other
to
options but to
consume.
play backside of zone. He's going to be forced into a fight one way or the other, though, whether it's a team looking for cleanups or maybe even the team on height. And that's Cammy, Seti, and Hari already making sure to just spray everybody underneath them and try and ruin that front side low ground position that Queasy's team's setting up for.
This is not a trio
Yeah,
that
man,
you'd
that's what they are,
expect to
high goal
see
team, anyway.
first moving zone on height in game 1 of the EUF and CS
Of course,
Major
they
Finals, but
play
they
high
ended
goal,
up
they're
having that
already-
prime elevated
they guess they
position
low
on the
ground too,
hill.
though.
They held that for 7th. Zone pulled towards them on 8th and 9th here now, and it looks like they're going to try and control this for the rest of the match. I mean,
can play
Cammy,
zone.
Seti, Hari, it didn't go well for them Major 1. But now they've been looking like favorites going into this major. They're uncontested and they're capitalizing on it in the end game. If they can close this one out, it would be
can hold
massive. But
zone.
Vico
Come on.
has to
Oh
be careful.
my,
They've got
Vino
just
went down.
35 HP to work with. Flixie's
Yeah,
healthy,
man.
but they're split up. It's gonna be difficult for them to get in.
And teams were shooting
Oh
at
my
him, which is
God,
why he
Vico
has
went
to
down.
rise. Finally,
Alright, Flixie have to
becomes
clutch.
a part of the conversation.
Yeah,
now
what
it's
Mr.
all up
Savage?
to Flixie, just continuing to try and darp his way through the low ground. Things are getting so chaotic, though. So many players just falling every which way inside of these disruptive low ground layers. But Flixie, he might have found a moment of relief. He might have even found an opportunity to strike, but he has no builds left.
Oh
He's
my,
forced.
come on,
He's
Vic.
scrambling out
Oh,
underneath, but
come
now
on,
it's Heidi
Flixie.
that's continuing to
Whoa!
suppress, continuing to
Alright,
spread into where he's
Flixie,
currently
alright,
located.
Flixie.
He's trying to dive.
Flixie,
He's
I'm
got
playing
dodge
Andy
every
Shandy
which
over
way,
there.
But there's only so many directions he can head.
Get
before
points,
one of
Flixie,
these
get
other teams
points, get
surrounding him
points.
takes notice. This is a solo. Left
Where's-
all
where-
alone,
where's-
waiting to be
where's
claimed by
Mr.
the
Savage?
Instead, it's Convict that's gonna be brought down.
Ooh,
Flixie
and he got the
just
point.
missed
Alright,
it.
that's not bad, that's not bad.
The
Is Mr. Savage
damage
still
was too
Panzer's
much to
down?
handle.
Malabuka.
He's gonna finally be
When did
brought
Mr. Savage
down.
go down?
But still impressive stuff after the fact. Malabuka taking out Blaha. Things are getting messy here.
Couldn't get the siphon in time. Malabuko doing a great job of staying ahead. Full trio still looking healthy. I see Pink's trio as well looking healthy. So many full trios. But Cammy, Seti, Hari, they get chopped down. Good news is no
Pretty
fall
good for
damage
Dar.
taken. It's the fight for height.
Yeah.
And on the other end, it's going to be
W,
Swizzy.
W.
It's going to be Queasy, Merstash.
Okay, Queasy and Merstash.
Control as Harry's
But when
forced
did
to
Mr.
drop
Savage go down? I wasn't
Minnie's
paying
being
attention.
popped and
Mr.
Merstash,
Savage.
Queasy, Swizzy.
When did
Once
they go
again,
down,
like we're
man?
used to
Did Vino
seeing up
take-
on the
hit him on? Or did somebody
elevated
else?
position.
Merstash, Queasy,
This guy's
Swizzy, though they know
Merstash
job's
and
not
Vino
finished.
still
Being
lose.
currently in control of that front side low, but so many bodies surrounding him. Kira's now potentially going to get tangled up.
Alright, come on, Merkins, Merkins.
They're making sure to stick right behind their IGL. Walks Malabuka, Walks all
Wax is
by
done,
himself.
Wax is
Walks
done now.
taken out. No builds.
Ooh.
Means no opportunities to bring this one back.
At least
Not
Mr.
while
Savage made
Queasy's
it to
team is on the
endgame, so
high
that's
ground.
good.
Swizzy just continuing to spray,
Ping is on there
continuing
getting
to be
sprayed.
a nuisance. Merstash already going to make the drop. Wants to commit to further eliminations here. And Girdas is trying to see if he can just break through. He knows these walls don't belong to him, but he's running out of materials, Takata.
Full low. This is where the players that have no mats, have low heals, are going to slowly fall down to. But there's only 3 trios up. Still 8 players on the
Okay.
board. So
Well,
many
let's
full
keep high
teams playing this out
Merstash.
as Pink and Nebs now are going to battle the low. Gyros is going to get the knock.
Ooh,
Swizzy,
Queasy got
Queasy,
the knock.
Merstash. All they have to do is clean this one up. Merstash
Alright,
with
that's
a
all they
massive
do.
pump. Looking to take
Oh,
down
okay, that's not.
player after after player.
Swizzy.
The angles are
Okay,
looking
that's not.
insane from Swizzy as he gets one more.
Alright,
and
so
Murstache and
Murstache
Queasy
will
clean
be
it up
one.
for the first victory royale of the EU
that was a good game,
FNCS
man.
Major Finals.
Queasy
I wanna
knows
see what the points
what his
are.
role is in this trio. Just maintain that eagle-eye view of the
Let's go look at the
lobby
points,
and
guys.
let
Let's
Murstache
see.
and Swizzy play janitor crew on the low ground. They
wanna
were
see the
absolutely
points.
picking up just constant tags, constant.
Alright, let's see the standings.
Yeah, the end
Alright, let's see the standings, guys. So the Murstache at top. Vico and Phoenix, that's not far behind. They have some work to do. Malibuka's there. Where is Mr. Savage though?
aren't always the
Well, they
cleanest,
will show
right? They
Mr.
might
Savage.
not, get a bunch of wins playing that way, but they're gonna get a bunch of limbs. They're gonna make it deep into
Come on,
games,
man.
and that's what counts.
Where's Mr.
sometimes when you're trying to
Savage?
compete for the title.
I also really love watching Fortnite because in the end game, sometimes you see trios pop up and you see these names and you go, oh yeah, it's nice to see them again because it's lovely to see Gyros making it to the end game
who
with his
Gyros is.
teammates Franek and Dinas. They were picking up eliminations.
Where's
left,
Mr.
right, and
Savage?
centre, 11.
That's what I want to know.
It's funny you said. I always enjoy watching Fortnite. I hope so. You know,
No,
Yeah,
just
no,
do it
they
for
show
the
me
money.
the
it's funny. I like
Alright, let's just go on to the next
Per
game.
se,
then,
as
son.
maybe I might have ate my words,
All right,
Taco,
let's
because
see
shots
Mr.
are already getting
Savage.
traded.
Shots were traded, but Z Andy is actually
Come on,
paying the
Savage.
price elsewhere. Mr. Savage, the deal, reason. They're going to be the first ones to touch down.
Yeah,
Might
come
be
on.
a short-lived victory, though, just on the other end of the Big Ben tunnel.
Yes, come on, good chance.
Oh,
Good enough.
Too much pressure.
Get that.
Those
Yeah,
are the
alright,
tags
Mr. Savage,
that
press
you have
that.
to land this early on, and now the advantage has been completely split into the deals team's favor. Nom's going to be forced to bail out the opposite direction.
That's good search.
They are
though.
just so separated from each other. It's going to be so much easier now for Reason's team to just fully take over.
Yeah, looking like a
That's not
2-0
a
so
bad drop
far.
for Mr. Savage too.
As we go back over to Vico, Veno, and Flixie. And it looks like they're going all over the place, Taco.
Yeah, they've opted to go completely different.
Everywhere,
Only
exactly.
lane type
They're
of
just going
scene, so they
everywhere.
might still be looking to
That
try
makes it
and
unpredictable.
push a little bit
But it
south.
might,
Those teams that they know
also
are going to
make
be
their
contesting
gameplay
each other early on.
unpredictable as well. So
Fact
they
of the
won't
matter
be
is,
able
though,
to
if
catch the
I'm
rhythm.
Teeny
But if they have
especially,
already,
I am looking at
But if they have
Venom
already
and
thought
Raz
about
and just
this
thinking
and
to myself,
practiced
these
it in
guys
scrims
really
and stuff, they should
stole
be
my
fine.
whole flow, bar for bar. Want to be me so bad right now. But Veno, Vico, and Flixie, they're definitely the sort to carve their own identity with this kind of strategy, Takata. And it seems like Whiffy Wharf is on the mind, but does the other team that's already inbound at Whiffy even
Why
know
did they beam him?
what's about to take place? Veno,
Why did
touching
they
down
beam
first,
him?
getting ahead of the rest of his
Do
team.
not let Venom fight you,
Peter
bitch.
Moore
Especially
tries to break in,
alone.
create some space.
Oh
Zangi
my
and Zara, they're
God.
gonna have to be quick on their feet.
gonna be
though.
a
They wanna
massacre.
catch up. And Peter, just exclusively on the run
Okay.
right now. He
He
does
got
not
away.
want anything to do with Venom.
Exactly, he
wants
got away.
the reinforcements before taking up this fight. And Veno, this is what makes him so clever. A cut above the rest, just constantly keeping tabs. He spots two players. I know there's one still lurking. I'm not going to overexpose myself.
Veno's
He
looking
goes
fast.
in there.
I like the way it's looking
Okay,
right now. They
Veno got
clearly
that.
prepared to take these fights.
Yes,
Zara's
because
already
they
getting
just
cracked.
want to fight because they
This
know that
isn't
the
even
better fight is
their
the most
original
lovely.
drop spot, but they're just going from drop to drop, taking fights on trios all over the map, and as good as fighters as they are, if they're able to
Oh my
consistently
god,
close
they're
these
just gonna
out,
burn their mats.
this is going to be the first time well, it is literally the first time we've ever witnessed a playstyle like this. I'm trying to think overall, not only in the major finals, especially on
Tina
purpose.
and Misha, who really
It's gonna burn them.
kickstarted the whole ordeal
Yeah.
a while back, but even still, in
Oh,
trios,
Pixie got hit.
Flixie might be on the receiving end.
Oh, they
of
knock one.
trouble,
They
though.
knock one though.
Vico, Veno, they're just too quick with it.
Doesn't
Zara
matter.
claimed that's
Doesn't
one
matter.
elimination.
Vico and Venom
Bento,
just came to
two
mess up
left to
everybody's
go.
events
You know
here
this is
because they've
their
already
strategy, and
qualified.
Vico just immediately jumps
Did he
in, but
miss one?
Vico,
Vico doesn't
for a
even miss.
moment, thought
Oh
we'd
my
have to worry,
God.
but it's Vico that we're talking about after all.
Oh
That's his
my
next
god, they just come to
elimination
spoil
in
everybody
sight.
else's
Clean
FNCS.
trio wipe here at Whiffy Wharf, and it's that
They play it
time
like
to
it's a cash
elimination.
cow.
I know Vico and Flixie get it done so fast.
Now it's about what's next, though. Have they really prepared the rotates from all of these different drop spots? How are they going to play out those mid games, switching it up every time? We'll see how it goes. As right now, Giras, Franek, Dynas trying to see if they can at least get a bit of tags here on Hellfire, Scrapped, and Trip. Not too much aggression, but kind of just shots back and forth.
It's quite literally an uphill battle, though, for Tripper, and it's what it's felt like this entire season so far. Tripper is not willing to be a bystander, though. Probably just happy to be a participant for the Major 2 finals, so they're definitely going to want to try and win out at that last exchange. Focus, Janus, and for Strokey, they have certainly won Outlaw Oasis when you see 3 elims on Focus, but F9, Moneymaker, Faded, they might be making an introduction that is not accounted for.
Reason said, I'm not letting you go untouched here as Noms gets taken out. They already got that initial pick to start off game 2 here, now picking up Noms. Just one player left in the trio, but you kind of want to insert, you know, the dominance, especially after getting the pick early on. You don't want to let them freely roam, kind of like they did in game 1, and find themselves at another trio in order to be the ones to kind of put an end to it, as it looks like Savage is gonna kind of continue making his way. As they might even be able to use this chase as a rotate in a sense as well, if they want to go kind of that east side on congested route. A lot less trios contested around there, though, so there is going to be less action and most likely not as much Storm playing. But you got to think, you know, is Queasy, Swizzy, Merstash going to be waiting for them if they take that route? A lot of things to consider here.
There's just no reason not to follow Twy, though, because even if he manages to get a little bit of distance from Reason's trio, they're right by Mass Meadows. The black market is right there, so Savage's team will have no issues replenishing any heals that they might lose along the way. They're definitely willing to commit, spending a little bit of time inside of the Storm. Sky Scroll and Eyedrop.
I was wondering.
This is a team, though, that's been relatively quiet throughout match number 1. And it's also a team where Eyedrop specifically is looking to beat the finals allegation stigma. He wants to prove that he's got what it takes for that top tier placement.
Hey, Mini believes in it. I believe in it too. For Vanya, Marius, and Pixie.
Why do I hear Ritual
This
Code
is a
and
trio
Peter
that has
Black,
been
though?
kind of dominating
Oh, I
Flooded
know
Frogs
why.
throughout the season. In the divisional cups, playing
I
incredibly
know why.
consistent
Sorry,
as well.
guys. I was still watching it from there. That's the
And it
problem.
should be no different here. In
My
the major
bad, guys.
finals, they've
Those
got
are-
their
I
plan
didn't remember to tell me.
routed out.
Should've
They
did that.
know what they need to do to get themselves to the late game.
Okay, we're good now, guys.
But right now, the step is kind of just taking shots, doing damage. I don't think they're going to
Okay.
take any risks here.
Looking at the amount of heals and goodies that were at the top of that stairwell. Faded, F9, Moneymaker, though, they finally got what they were after. It was a fight with Strokey's team, but Janus seemingly has the
Yeah,
advantage.
let's go. Cook last match.
Strokey
They're supposed to be scared
down to the
that
low ground.
we-
Janus getting a nice pop shot
Michael Mug.
onto Faded from above. That's going to be green light to go. Knows that he's cracked, but they're still willing to just wait it out. There's not many places left to run when you are inside of Sakura Stadium, so they're willing to just stick to the high ground. Don't take any unnecessary risk. Focus for Strokey, Janus. They want to close this one out, though. You can definitely
Yeah,
tell
but
that they are
fight is
aching
going
to be
along.
more involved, but
It's going
they're
for
also
far too
aware of
long
the fact
right
that
now.
F9 and
They took
Moneymaker,
those
they're
up
just
quickly.
running
Going
low on
on kinda
materials.
long now.
It seemed like could be part of the reason why
Okay,
they're so hesitant to
because
actually
we know about to
push
take some
forward.
more
Vico, Veno, and
souls.
Flixie, they're also looking to gather their resources just from raw fighting strategy.
They want to take some
They
more
are
souls,
comfortable
bruh.
with this side of the map. They did land Flooded Frogs last season, and they know very well how to play this north side out. So in terms of kind of the rotate here and doing
below you
damage, they're
guys.
just looking for openings, looking for options, and kind of going back and forth there. Luckily enough, the zone did pull north, so they have the choice to just continue on the full uncongested side and not take a lot of those risks that the trios down south are going to have to on their long rotate. They can even conserve a lot of the materials and heals, so it's looking good, in my opinion, for Vico, Veno, and Flixie here. As long as they don't do anything too risky,
Yeah.
One problem
Let's see,
that's
what's that
building,
guy
though,
over there?
is Veno. He's got Darkisa's trio directly underneath where they are currently boxed. And sure, you want to take the odd shot or two at iDrop's team, but you can't find yourself being sandwiched in the process. So Veno using that
those
natural
back-up
elevation to cover, prevent any line of sight
that
from
happened.
iDrop and just try to deal with the immediate
Oh
threat. And that's
my
Phalanx
God.
and Keys, but
He just
Phalanx
get knocked.
beamed the moment that he tries to get that overhead view. Meanwhile, Vico, Veno, Flixie, they're going to opt for a full wraparound disengage, just taking advantage of the campfire now. Settled on the beach, sure, they might be a little bit out northwest from where the rest of the lobby is currently fixated, but that's not a concern when they have so many heals to work with. And F9 definitely wishes he had something to replenish his
Come on,
HP.
Giannis.
Instead,
Get a kill.
a victim
Ooh, dead.
of Giannis's trio and their aggressive nature.
Yeah, this is the fight we were kind of seeing.
Yo,
Ended up playing it out.
whoa.
And
Anticipated
now
there,
they
dude.
have the option to
A
make their
straight
way back
headshot.
into zone, but
Straight
we'll look here
headshot.
for Doxy,
Oh, the whole Mr. Savage is
Pablo,
doing.
and Chino.
Never seen him in kill feed.
Looks like they found Robin here in a tough situation. Do they even know? Yeah. Okay, not bad. Few eliminations, still at hopeful, but like we've mentioned before, so many trios just playing in zone for an incredibly long period of time. What I'm thinking now is they'll rotate into zone. They have to pass through Seaport. They have to pass through Cami and Seti potentially.
Inside
So
it.
there's a lot of trios that are potentially already kind of based up, waiting for them to make their way into zone. So we'll see how they end up navigating that.
No surprises, though, to see so many other teams still willing to commit to some of these storm fights. And Chaps, V, Teeny. And this was one of the Frankie's forecast teams. We kind of hard to not put them on the radar, though. They've got just so much fighting caliber inside of this trio, and a couple of teams surrounding them could be
working
a
between two
big
teams.
sign for them to just slip by uninvolved.
Oh.
They're gonna make sure, though, that
knock-
Ivan
oh
pays the
my
price here.
kid.
Completely disoriented, was looking a separate direction entirely, and now Teeny, Chaps,
Oh
V,
my
just
God,
full
did it get
key
back open?
onto Arian's trio. They are not gonna allow
man.
these guys to pass on by. They want the additional eliminations. They know just how incredibly low Ivan even is, but Svi,
no.
he's been taken out.
What?
That is a huge blow. Chap and Teeny
Oh.
wanted to go unscathed from this exchange.
What?
Instead,
Don't back
they're gonna
up.
have to opt to play fallback now. They need their full trio intact if they want that end game. And this is such a massive delay for them to have to play for the reboot.
Yeah,
Oh,
this
you
is tough. It's
disengaged.
fourth zone.
Just
I mean,
take the
fifth
back.
one is the last
You
one
already
at 1
knocked one.
DPS per second.
My God.
And they really
Whoa,
can't take too
I
much
need to-
time here.
yeah,
Not
they
only
need to
that, now
push.
they have the issue of getting chased alongside that.
Exactly.
Cade, Ivan, they know
Should've
there's
pulled.
more than enough heals to play
should've-
this one in zone as
Oh
Chap
my
gets knocked
God,
down.
you should've pulled
Teeny
for the
left
fight.
alone. It is just crumbling down for this trio.
The only real silver lining, hold
Oh my
that
God.
thought, though,
You
cringe.
should have taken the fight.
Could
Should've
you
took the
look to
fight.
pose a serious problem here? He's not willing to let Teeny slip on
I would
by,
have,
but
I would
he
have
might not have a
advised them to take
choice.
the fight because they've already committed
Duo
so much and one was
also
not.
nearby.
They got him off the
Other teams
slightly,
that have
but
been
boy.
a little bit caught up in harm's way here is Volko, now fully aware of the fact that Cade, Ivan, and Aryan are nestled right behind him. They're just gonna opt to crouch around. Steady goes on the low ground, and just playing inside of the vault building at Crime
Okay,
City.
Dino and Flixie's down.
Veno, Flixie,
What?
This is not what they were
This is
hoping
not
for,
good?
though. They wanted to be aggressive.
This is
they
not
wanted to
good?
be the ones doing all the hunting, not getting hunted themselves.
Oh,
Ricky
good
Wolf
return of
just
it.
turning out to be disastrous currently for Veno. He's
I wanna
hoping
hold
that he
his
can get some
now.
additional tags here. He needs some big connects, but he's not gonna find it. Cleaned up and punished for their attempts. Maybe a little overzealous. Maybe just the fact they got
Definitely
stuck
overzealous.
between iDrop's team and Darkisa's. But regardless, the outcome's all the same here, Takada. They've been wiped from the lobby incredibly early on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what caused that, initial knock to
Oh, you see a
happen,
replay?
but what we have to keep in mind is they're down 26th place with 3 eliminations. Like, this is something. It is, 12 total matches throughout the 2 days, but they had a pretty good start with the amount of eliminations, the position they got, but if they get these matches where they don't make it to end game, it's going to be
That's
tough
gonna- you're gonna
to
get
get a
demoted
solid
here, yep.
placement.
Just
For
taking out
Strokey
the area.
getting knocked down off the reboot. Focus.
course, both of them.
Falling after, looking like a pro-am lobby potentially, with all the players flying throughout the sky.
I didn't expect anything different. Like
This
if you get
strategy
rebooted
is
here
what
with our own
really
teams, they're gonna
boded
be in
so
you.
well for
Especially
iDrop's
teams
team
with this level of
in
aim.
the last major, at least throughout the divisional weeks. And Scroll,
Well, Scroll
he'll
to
keep
the-
things rolling. Already has been eliminated. 5
Got my thumb work,
eliminations in
sorry.
total, though, so you have to anticipate that iDrop's team is definitely massively benefiting as far as their surge damage goes. But I think more importantly still, it's the third-party nature. They were notorious for it
Mr.
all
Savage
throughout
can
Major
use
one and the last
his
season.
advantage
So to
and
see
get up
them
to points.
being able to
Come on.
replicate some of those methods of success
Just-
here, that's
just
going to
beamed,
be a
just
huge
beamed.
momentum swing in their favor. But now they need to translate this early success into a nice late game finish.
Yeah, I mean, they got 4th place last match, ended 6th overall on the leaderboard. They only had 3 eliminations. Now they already have more than what they had after they finished the last match, so they're set up for success. What they don't need to do now is keep taking these fights in zone. I think it's kind of time to start rotating. Time to start being
My
careful.
God.
Slow. 200 to 0 in half a second. And this is an opening for Giraz, Frantic, and Dynus to continue pushing on through.
Everybody's just getting murked. Everybody's just
Going
getting
aside
murked
right now
in the
for
fact
iDrop's
Vico and
team,
Venom
that
and
is
60
the
just got
last
murked
thing
out,
that
and
they
it's just
would've
like they're getting murked too,
expected.
boy.
Is to just be trailed.
Scroll
It's
just got knocked,
unfortunate
insta knock.
for Scroll, but sometimes you gotta be willing to throw up those builds behind you, just not quick enough with it.
Kido,
Definitely a very unfortunate outcome.
ooh,
Duo on the
Yeah.
opposite end of that one, though. Big knock, big
well,
cleanups.
EU is really
massive
more competitive.
eliminations that
Have
are
you
just
always
going
been
to
if
permit
EU
them to
is
stick
more
around and
competitive,
storm
but
one moment
boy,
longer.
the skill gap is closer. So
Look,
that's
Malamuka
crazy. All of Vico and
Rocks have been
Vina and
looking
Pixie are better fighters
insanely
than most of
consistent.
them, but
We
like
talked about them kind of
if the parameters and the conditions are
in the
good, they
play-ins,
wouldn't.
you know, to match their expectations, and in week 5, the divisional cup finals. But even throughout the day, they made it to the late game in the first match. They got a good amount of eliminations. They're looking incredibly set up to do that once again in this second game. And major finals all about consistency. So
Get the focus.
I'm liking what we're seeing so far.
I like to take that Div Week 5 finals with a grain of salt, because also
Malamuka.
have to remember that was when Veno's team
Wax.
decided
Yeah,
we're going to be landing
finished
Lone Wolf
well
Lair
last
as
match,
well, and
so.
then it definitely posed a couple of
Maybe,
issues
they might be the most
for
consistent team
Malamuka's
so far.
team in terms of how they wanted to handle that. So
We've been above,
the
storm
outcome
threshold
here
too, so.
in the Major 2 Finals weekend is all that they are intent on focusing for. They're even all boot camping in Germany. They're building up that, I think, synergy as a team. And it could net a really positive end result. But like you already know, Takata, you never want to get too far ahead of yourself. You never want to start to daydream about being in that winning position, because you've got to focus on the here and now.
Gotta lock in, just like Thomas HD with his drum gun, literally doubling the damage from every other player in the group stage that also have the drum gun in their, you know, rightful group. Thomas HD had 6,000 damage just with the drum gun in his group to qualify him. And, you know, their placements, we talked about consistency. Camiseti, Kari being the most consistent trio, as you know, they played all the divisional cups together. Thomas with Upland Panzer played the last 3 together. They got 6th, 3rd, 5th. I mean, you don't get much more consistent than that. So hopefully we'll see the same kind of trend player out here in the major finals.
Have to feel a little bit though for Panzer and Uppel exclusively, because everybody knows about Thomas and his placement history, but for Panzer and Uppel, they both had relatively solid success. I mean, we're talking about 8th place finish with Panzer's team in the last major. We saw Uppel with 6th place, I believe, and there's so much pressure on them now that they've teamed up with Thomas to go that extra mile to overlap where they were before.
Yeah, what I love about, you know, Uppel and Panzer too is if you compare to their, you know, Thomas's previous teammates, Uppel and Panzer have a 41% higher damage ratio compared to his previous teammates. So they are, you know, putting in the work alongside Thomas to finish off those tags, get those extra eliminations, and you know it's showing in how well they've been playing.
damage
For
is
Noah
switching
Lex
around
and
and
Shark
then these
being
tags.
43 below.
Oh man, they're below
On the
storm
congested
threshold.
side of zone, so many players around you. It is just not the position you want to be in, Taco.
That's weird for
So
such good brothers
smushed
like
between
Stark.
their floor layer
Alright.
and just all the teams that are at the bottom
He
of this
just a
cliff face. No,
decent
Riley
guy.
wants to get the party started.
decent guy.
Issue is everybody underneath just scrambling to get out of
Yeah,
dodge. They're
Shark
not
is
willing to
really
stick
good,
around.
though.
Pink knows the team above us. They are massively desperate. We don't need to do anything. We'll just tackle the team that's one layer underneath us instead. Noah, Riley, Trulex, Shark. They
Oh, they
don't
got
have
tags, they
any
got
time
tags?
to waste though. They're gonna jump right
they're
in,
both
but
Nova,
Pink
they're
make
done.
sure that they pay the ultimate price here. A couple of eliminations going big time, but Kyoto, he's got to focus
Whoa.
on reviving Nebs.
Pink is
Creed
on.
and Volko still desperate for that damage, and they find Pink throughout all of it. So
Oh
now
my
Kyoto, he won't be
God.
able to stick around. He won't be able to revive
Well,
Nebs.
everybody's
He's
in
gotta keep moving
shambles.
forward. He has Surge and plenty of it. He's got material also to Kata, but what he doesn't have is his teammates.
It's going to be a tough run. And for Swizzy, Queasy, and Murstache, coming from winning the first game to now being 143 below, down to 49. Low on shield, no spare shields, it looks like. What went wrong during these
Bro,
rotations? It looks like they
anything
might
can happen, bro.
need
You
to
can
look
win
for
the
a
last
refresh
game,
early on here.
and then
Mind
next
is
game you're
on
just
high
in
ground.
total
Mind is
shambles.
getting themselves back into the game.
Because they're still 81 below.
It's looking like
They
a
don't get a beam
dominoes
now,
effect
like they're gonna
potentially.
be
The
in
damage that
so
Venom's
much
team
trouble.
caused, landing so northwards.
They'll be touched,
of the
brother.
map
Okay,
caused
good enough.
teams
Okay,
to kind of
that should be
hesitate,
good.
kind of stick around, but
That should be
Mustache
good.
makes it
Yeah,
happen,
that
puts his team above. Big Elim.
Still,
When they
they're
needed
still in
it
problems,
most.
bro.
And that's gonna be the first one for this trio even. So surge damage has definitely been an issue for some of these other teams. A little bit more center map to find. And Murstache, Swizzy, Queasy, they're content to stay based up.
Oh,
but
Blaha
they need
Mixer are
more
getting storm
refreshes,
damage
and they
too.
need to make it to
Surge
the
damage.
bodies because they need the loot.
Ah,
also.
Mr. Savage and Reason watching them
Yes.
over there.
There's a lot of trios that are already positioned in a good spot in zone, but so many of them are just missing that damage. Blaha's trio's fully cracked. Malibuka's only 86 above. The good news is now's the time. You can't miss the shots as these people that are on the congested side start working their way towards the zone.
Ooh, Murstache is done. They're cool.
Murstache
Alright,
is
it's
left
done.
as a solo as well. He's
It's
lost
done.
his teammates, forced to rotate in below Surge. A
It's
miracle. It's what he needs to
It's
make it out of
done.
this one.
It's done.
Just 2 ticks left.
Oh, he's trying
It's
to
not
get
looking
it.
good.
Oh, it's done.
He's just so
It's done,
fixated
it's
on
done,
trying to get tags
done.
onto the players behind him. Even if he'd secured them, it wouldn't have made much of a difference because those teams already based inside the zone. Looking at Vanya, Pixie, and Marius with Queasy's trio having fallen. Got it. This could be their best opportunity to overtake Hayden. Thomas HD, he goes down in the low ground. Marius, Pixie, Vanya doing exactly what they need to, just completely spraying all these teams, trying to pile into Flooded Frogs at the last minute. Pixie then hoping that he could pick up some leftover goods. Instead, eats a few tags from Marius, and they just continue to tarp overhead. Vanya has been cracked, though. He's got to be careful.
Look, they said it doesn't matter if we don't pull the 50-50 here. It doesn't matter if the zone goes to the opposite side. We're still holding on to this. And if any trio is going to get a win, if any trio is going to close this match out, Vanya, Marius, and Pixie have great odds to do so. As Sky Scroll and iDrop, incredible performance. So many eliminations already on the board. They were consistent in the first game. There's so many big names they can still hit.
They want to control that front side low, but they're going to have to deal with Tripper's team potentially. Podesai, X-Squeeze, and Art Skill also a little bit caught up here in the mid ground. You can tell they're trying to keep tabs on height, but they just got to get it moving. They've got to make sure that they are in the front side. They don't want to get caught up in the mix of the congestion that's starting to really build inside of these mid to lower layers.
All right, Mr. Savage.
And just
Oh,
while
7
Mr.
kills.
Savage, Reason, and Vadil have been
Yes, go on, get a
away
kill. Yes.
at these builds right in front of them.
But I'll
It's
get
Storm
on.
Demas. They've got to be real careful here. They might not even
Oh,
be
Mr.
aware of the fact
Oh
that
my
it's gonna be
God.
Vadil instead, who's collecting.
Oh my
Pablo
God.
potentially the one benefiting in that process. But for Oxy's team, they look so incredibly unhealthy in comparison. iDrop, Sky, Scroll, they've managed to cut through, but it comes at a cost. Scroll,
Wait, they got up
yet
Scroll?
again, picked off
Yeah, they
in
got
the
up Scroll.
process.
Yeah, they got up
And
Scroll.
iDrop,
to pick him up, though. I think they can get the double. They're going to be back in the game here, but they already have double-digit elims, Taco. Are you kidding me? Marius, Pixie, Vanya still holding on to height. They literally had a 12% win rate in the Div Cup finals. They know how to secure these victory royales, and now they want to do it in the major finals. Marius showing his fragging power as he drops down. Looks to pick up a quick refresh, but unable to do so. Is going to play for safety once again.
Yeah, on second thought, Marius is like, I don't actually need to get involved just yet. I'm going to fall back to where my teammates are at. Healthy, on height. Savage completely collapsed on, though. Just
What?
a victim of trying to play towards that backside. But the
I didn't see that, guys. I'm
pulling
rewinding
back.
that. I didn't
This
see
is
that.
massive now for the team on height. Marius, Pixie, Vanya, they are just letting
I didn't
everyone
see
in
that.
the low grounds completely eat themselves alive. Yeah, on second thought, Marius is like, I don't actually need to get involved just yet. I'm gonna fall back to where my teammates
Oh,
are at. Healthy,
something-
on height.
that's what happened.
Savage completely collapsed on, though. Just a victim of trying to play towards that backside. But the zone, it's pulling back. This is massive now for the team on height. Marius, Pixie, Vanya, they are just letting everyone in the low grounds completely eat themselves alive. Malabuka, Ping, and Wox hoping to try and be the catalyst here in the low ground, generate some form of low ground success. And if these other teams aren't careful, they might actually succeed. Pix, Darman, Demas, though, they're preparing to try and shock the world, and it starts by taking out X-Squeeze.
When they hit big, but you gotta be careful. You can't get stuck in the dirt. Pix is the only one that makes it out of his trio. Wox, Malabuka, Ping, they continue. The chemistry is looking stronger than ever as Vanya is looking to see, does he play this heal off? Is he gonna let his teammate frag? How can he close this one off?
Marius,
As Pixie,
wait,
picking up
Marius,
elimination
wasn't
after
Marius in
elimination,
shambles?
four on the board already as they prep
Marius
themselves now
was in
for the
shambles.
final moments.
Oh, well, he's-
the decision,
he's-
how
no.
do we close this one
Could he-
out?
But Marius, he tries to
Wait,
tango in the low
pretty sure
ground
Marius
instead,
was-
gets punished for it.
legit
He's still got
stake.
Pix way in
He
the
was
backside,
cool.
trying to just
Yeah.
play out a little bit of placement here. All the while, Ping, Wox, Malabuka, they might even get the benefit here of a freebie siphon off of Pix if they recognize just how low he is, but it's also iDrop. iDrop's getting involved in the conversation here. Ping, Wox, Malabuka, one of the only healthy trios left to remain, left to try and threaten, because aside from iDrop as a solo, it's only Vanya and Pixie up above in the skies. High versus low. How long can you hold out for, though? Ping, Wox, Malabuka, the builds are running so incredibly low. They're trying to make sure that they keep
but
steady
not-
height
oh
overhead.
my.
But Malabuka, he might be the
1v
one to
not.
be the difference maker. Vanya's gonna fall back. Vanya's trying to
Nice,
play for the
2v1.
heal off. Vanya needs to make sure he doesn't get tagged in the process. And he's got the Medmis grenade here.
Wow.
Takada, it might be the separating factor.
Nah,
Has
they have a
Pixie done enough
140 on
damage?
their
He got a
children
knock.
there. They should
He
be good.
cracked one of the players, but is it going to be enough to let Malabuka out heal Vanya?
Oh my
now
God.
it's all up to who has more
Oh
heals.
my God, he
Both
has
players
more
with the
heals.
Chug
It's
Jug,
done,
Vanya
it's
with
done.
chug splashes.
It's
a
done.
matter of time
He
to
has
see
more.
who's able to close this one
has
out.
way more
Vanya did an
heals.
amazing job putting himself away from the aggression and now kind of looking around. Malabuka remembered that chug sprite, that water sprite was still there. They healed in the storm originally. Vanya trying to see if he can find any heal here. That's the difference maker. But unfortunately for Malabuka, Vanya
That's
is
very
going to
smart.
out heal, securing that victory royale for game number 2.
Ooh
Let's
la
go to game
la,
three.
Nikov, I
That was
know
very
you
good.
are going absolutely crazy right now, witnessing a little bit
Let's see standings.
I should say. And
Let's see. Damn, Vico, Vino, and Flixie. They're not even in the top 10. Mr. Savage! Yes, bro.
it
Alright,
seems
we're
like your
at the
confidence
third.
is paying off, Mini.
currently too for the map is because he was the one that actually coached Phrodoxy's team throughout the Last Chance qualifiers, just paying back a huge favor from the previous season, and Phrodoxy having taken the time to help out Queasy and Thomas when they were teamed up, doing a little bit of off-spawn practice. But that's neither here nor there. Can't get too caught up in the past because right now, Mr. Savage, Vidil, and Reason, they've got a whole mess to deal with at the Big Ben Tunnel as is expected. Chap, Tayson, everybody kind of just trying to find their footing. Skvi overhead. It might only be mere seconds before they clash, and Tayson just trying to keep himself protected, just trying to make sure he's united with Chicho and Atris.
Last match.
Doesn't want any unexpected blows early on.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of this kind of fight conclude early on. Normally, both trios have been making it out. In terms of Vico, Veno, Flixie, though, I'm hoping it's not just Vico. Okay, all three of them are good. It looks like they're kind of playing more of the split route, and then from the split, you know, third party, whichever team is fighting it out. But looks like they're back closer to Outlaw once again, but haven't started the third party yet.
Yet being the key word here, because we know that they love to get scrappy. They've already done so in the past 2 lobbies. They were able to open up with huge 3-piece eliminations successfully in each of those lobbies. But you want to keep that ball rolling, and considering that they had an early spill in the last match, Takada, that's the last thing that they want to repeat. And Flixie, if he's not careful, just one receiving end too many of those warning shots. Focus, Yanis, for Strokey, they are closing in.
It's like, what, 4 or 5 trios here at Taco? This
Too many trios.
A whole cluster. They talked about clusters, you know, trying to find areas where you have a good opportunity to kind of take shots at each other, but this is like a whole party, and I don't think these players want to take that on so quickly into this match. So although Focus with Strokey and Yanis got some good tags onto Vico, Veno, and Flixie, they're not going to continue pushing through. They saw the danger that entails.
Just would have been a self-sabotage if they actually kept trying to pressure Veno, Vico, Flixie. From the approach that they're making, they could tell way too many teams in the distance, just like we knew. A little bit less flooded, though, at Flooded Frogs. Venya, Marius, Pixie, trying to make quick work of their off-spawn, just building up their loop path, and wanting to see if they can be a reoccurring theme to find those Victor Royales in this Major 2 finals.
Going back into Vico, Veno, Flixie. In
Look at that
Crime
vault.
City. Looks like they're going to be opening up the vault here. I'm trying to see, yeah, it's Chap that doesn't want to let that one slide too easily. They know that they were going up against Tayson at the drop spot. You want to go to areas where there already is a trio fighting to be kind of that third one in there, but
This random place that
Vico's
is
going to get
fun,
cracked.
but I don't
Just
know.
one shot away from getting knocked down. Flixie makes it into the vault, and that was a close one, but Chap still does not want to let that one slide.
Just because you're in the vault, though, doesn't mean that you're actually going to be able to make it out. And Vico, he's relatively hurt. But sure, Veno, Flixie, Vico, they might have the benefit for the time being of controlling the vault, but they might actually just find themselves trapped unless Faded, Moneymaker, and F9 have something to say about it. They could potentially indirectly force Chapsky and Teeny away from this location inside of Crime City's vault, but Chap does not want to let Veno's team wiggle their way out of this one. Even if there's pressure spilling in from elsewhere, they are determined to stick around and see that they can get some damage done onto Veno's team, if not successfully eliminating them.
I like how it's not even Tayson's trio that's kind of like around here. It's Moneymaker's trio. Tayson's like, you know what, I'm done with this. I'll let you guys do your thing. I'm going to continue on with my route. And it looks like it's also how they let Vico, Veno, and Flixie make it out of the vault. Decided, you know, you can only wait so long.
No, they're trying to be so careful. They know this is too good to be true, if it usually is. In that scenario, this Vico, couple of shots being fired, F9, Moneymaker, Faded. They want to close in. Issues definitely continuing to build, though. Now checking in with Magic Mosses, Darm, Pix, Demas. They love utilizing the black market at Magic Mosses, but it could potentially come at a price they're not willing to pay just yet. Recognizing that Cringe, Volko, Kiddo a little bit faster to the punch.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it before. They tend to get like these really big games or kind of mid games, right? Got 27th game 1, 4th game 2. So we'll see if Demon Storm and Pix can kind of figure out what's going wrong. But the leaders of the pack, Mini Miner with a smile on his face, I drop Sky and Scroll, getting a bit of that fire once again, like Levin was alluding to. But you know, in this part of the game, they're not taking those risks. They're just, you know, taking shots where they see them. And I don't think we'll kind of see them get into an engagement here.
It's not the first time that we've seen this trio leading on the placements for a leaderboard in a major finals, but holding it is a completely separate conversation, and that's something that they're going to have. Ooh, Sky.
Oh,
Might want to direct his. Yeah, you might want to sit this one out.
You might have been looking at the Sky too long or something. I don't know what went wrong. Double headshotted.
Probably happy he's not getting turbo keyed for it. That could change though on a moment's notice. All of these teams in their surge bases, it's almost like a facade of a safety net, because you would think that teams wouldn't be willing to get up close and personal, but when you get massive tags like that, it's almost impossible to not want to get more directly involved. As Vico, Veno, Flixie, Crime City.
Ooh.
This is a very familiar background for them, and getting that initial elim onto Faded is definitely going to help out
Good Storm
with
Surge.
their current predicament, but they're still having to deal with Chap and Teeny. Svi revisiting Fenai Moneymaker, also trying to make sure that they can play for a little bit of backup. Even if they're a little bit split, it won't necessarily prevent them from completely engaging with this fight.
I mean, the good news is they do have that black market close by. They have the option to kind of get some heals, but in the meantime, you don't want to like fully take these fights. They got the knock, but with a trio and a duo in the surrounding area, you know, not too worth it. But Teeny, Chap, and Skibidi might want to capitalize on that now that they're left alone. Levin was talking about this. Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash, they have this kind of mountain they like to play on a little south of Seaport, and a perfect pull to continue there. It opens up the option to kind of, you know, take shots at all the trios that have to rotate through the south side of the map, even a little southeast.
Typically, you'd see teams trying to surge base on the north and south sides of Seaport to just fully control the flow of the lobby, but they're just exclusively directing their focus towards that southern border. They want to prevent any teams from having those freer rotates, and they know that they can stick around. Got fishing options if need be. And other teams just looking to utilize those black markets instead. Reason could use a little bit of help here dealing with Twy. So
yes, good
burst,
burst, man. Yes, Savage.
But Mr. Savage also making sure that they can finish what they started. And Twy, Hollow, they've definitely been off to a rough start here today.
It's like a constant hunt, right? It's like Mr. Savage, Rodil, and Reason. You know, they didn't want to be contested, but when they were, they're like, okay, we're going to fight. Doesn't matter if we don't do it in the early game. We're going to fight you. And it's clearly going their way. Even if they end up picking their eliminations a little later on, I mean, they still get the job done. As iDrop has gone down, our leading trio. Was it just iDrop? Is Sky and Scroll still looking good? We'll have to see kind of how they're able to come back if they even have the chance to. Pink.
Find out next time.
Yeah.
Scans back over, but they're not the only ones
So far.
dealing with a little bit of a predicament. Pump power, Demon's Dojo, split, smack dab in the center of the action. Pink, Kiro, Nebs, and Pink, he's got a lot of faith in his teammates. Kiro, distinctly, the fact that Pink would put him in such high regard and just constantly gassing up his trio mate, that's a lot of confidence to instill, and could go a long ways for them here, dealing with Volko, Kiro, Cringe. Volko trying to see if he can get something started. Cringe crouching, lurking, just waiting for Nebs to overpeak for a moment. He might even be able to approach from a blind line of sight. Shams isn't careful, but Pink, he's gonna be the real one under duress here. Pink forced to drop immediately, but Cringe, Volko, they weren't able to finish him off. And that's gonna allow Pink a moment to just reunite with the rest of his team.
Pink had a rough start to 2025. It would be nice to see him, have a great performance here in the major finals. They're already doing a decent job in 7th place, so all they have to do is kind of hold on in these early to mid games and keep getting to those lates. As we look at one of the most, if not the most consistent trios throughout the day today. Malabuka, Ping, and Walks. Levin mentioned it. I mean, they're already qualified to the Global Championship alongside Vico, Veno, and Flixi, but they are still showing why they ended up qualifying in just the first major of the year.
Hey, Lone Wolf might not have a black market, but it does have a vault and plenty of resources
What up,
to
Anchoy?
kind of build off of. That is for sure the intention behind Malabuka's team. I drop Sky and Scroll though, all back together yet again. So successful rescue mission by Sky and Scroll. I drop definitely going to be happy to be back in action with his teammates, but they've got a lot of heavy lifting to do here, Takada. They are so far out in Storm, and even if they're able to make a pass next to that Backwoods Black Market, they're still so far behind on Surge now compared to what they'd probably started off with.
I got faith though. I mean, starting off so strong with matches, that big, it gives you a good kind of motivation boost moving into the next ones. A good bit of confidence if you have to take those fights. As Sangold actually just got knocked in front of them to Storm. If they have the right timing, they might be able to make something happen. Camiseti Hari, it looked so good starting off the day. They were pulling all the zones, but in game 2, they weren't quite able to put on the performance that they would have wanted to. So hopefully now they can kind of fix up their mistakes.
You will never be able to convince me that Seti, Kami, and Hari aren't a leading favorite, though, when they are uncontested
Yeah, bro,
and in a
because Seti, Kami,
competitive
and
meta
Hari,
that
they might not have the fighting power, but
dealing with
they
these surge
definitely
bases.
have, the
These
smarts for that.
guys
They're very
are
intelligent.
potent as ever. And Kami, he's just going to focus up on making sure that they've got more than enough mats, more than enough materials to work with for wherever they decide to rotate next. Hardy and Seti holding the teams on an island at bay. Akira, spot of trouble here. He's got pressure coming in from the team outside of the surge base on the island, but he's also got to deal with the team directly fighting him. And big elimination onto Volko, Cringe, and Kiruo. Nowhere left to run. Unfortunately for him, the Shogun playing a huge part. Karamo should be able to utilize a double revive, but the Shogun getting involved, that's gotta be a tick for the Aussie Antics bingo board, right?
The Shogun 1v3 would be crazy if he continued forward. As we can see a replay of how this kicked off, though. Huge shot onto Cringe, kind of gave them that upper hand in the fight. But Vico, Veno, Flixi once again battling it out. Vico has been eliminated. Flixi falls shortly after, and now it's all up to Veno.
Oh my
As he
god,
goes
they
down.
went down
26th
again.
place once again, matching
on,
the placement from
bro.
last match. This is not what you want to see from a trio that's already qualified to the Global Championship.
But what's crazy is that this started off in Crime City, and now Chaptini, they actually chased out Veno's trio all the way to the likes of Lone Wolf Lair. And it might just pay the ultimate price here because Jewel, Sandguild, they are clearly on the hunt for a little bit of additional surge damage, if not just getting that siphon in the first place. But Jewel just not healthy enough to match it. Teeny finds the shots, able to switch out that infiltrator now for a sentinel pump, and that is already a massive win for Chapentini, as now they leave Lone Wolf with 7 eliminations, but they want to bring Skvi back into this.
Yeah, and they'll be able to do exactly that. I mean, they cleaned up that fight at the same time, basically. As you can see, they not only finished up the previous one quickly, but this is huge for Chaptini and Skvi. They are looking like they're in a kind of rough spot to play out this tournament, but they're making the best out of it. And it looks like Noms, Awa, Olo, and Twy are now at Seaport. They did kind of have that battle against Mr. Savage in the early game. I mean, at least 2 of them went down, but having to go against Mr. Savage into Queasy shortly after, this is not really the position you want to be in.
This is exactly what Queasy's team was after. They opt to stick around so often inside of the Storm because they know we can play the dead side rotates, we can play the wraparound angles, and we can also look to punish teams that are playing for the reboot inside the Storm. Twy, Noms, just more bodies being added to the count here. The Swizzy, Murstache, and Queasy will now have the luxury of picking which direction they head next because Avahalo has been capitalized on.
Oh.
Queasy will need the double revive, but no real pressure for concern just yet.
iDrop, Sky, and Scroll, they're back in the game. They had a rough start, though, after iDrop ended up getting knocked, and now, as iDrop's gotten eliminated, Sky and Scroll at least are able to pick up a couple knocks, and alongside that, some eliminations as well. But they gotta be careful. Sky's already fully cracked. Scroll has to try and finish focus off. There's more trios in the surrounding area. They're dead center of zone.
Warm time.
All
Wow,
eyes are going to be on them. They have to finish this up quickly, but as Sky gets knocked, Scroll's left alone. It's going to be impossible to bring them back in the game. This is not an ideal situation for the #1 trio in the lobby right now.
One step forward, 2 steps back. They might have been able to get the reboot off onto iDrop, but you don't get to pick and choose your fights after that. When you are so low on Surge, even with the eliminations they did gather, they were just so incredibly low there. Takata, I'd be very surprised to see them make something out of that scenario in comparison to a trio like Malibuka, Walks, and Ping. Just chilling at Magic Mosses, currently in a position that could look to definitely control who actually gets to go in and out of this backwards black market.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting depending on where this zone pulls as well for this late game, how close the black market is. It's interesting how many trios are still, you know, outside the zone despite getting closer and closer to that 7th zone where storm damage is 5 ticks per second. They know that there's got to be those trios that are playing zone kind of making their way in now.
Scroll has nowhere left to run though. He's just trying to pick off whatever shots he can. But when you're gazing out into the distance as a solo in 7th zone of all places, Takata, it is so difficult to actually try and convert this into anything more than maybe a handful of extra placement points. And already Scroll, the moment that he pops up, focus immediately looking to take advantage, but the slide focus, Scroll will end up also being eliminated in the mix up here, but it's just the fact that focus even gets slide knocked in the first place.
That is insane to knock off your opponent like that, elim him to fall damage, but you know, his teammates were there. Not too much trouble so far.
It's gonna delay them though.
Yeah, I mean, the rotate's gonna be more difficult. They gotta use some whites now. That is quite unfortunate. Now, in terms of high ground, Mr. Savage here right under, I believe, Queasy's whole trio here. They're playing for that 8th zone pull. Will it pull towards them? Will it not? I don't know if they care. They might go for it either way, but so far their job, do enough damage and be ready for whatever happens when that 8th zone appears.
So long as Queasy is in a lobby, much less a finals lobby, you can never expect height to be a guarantee for anyone who isn't Queasy. Murstache, Swizzy, just keeping tabs on the flanks, trying to ensure that the direction that they choose to head next is completely cleared out.
Now, Thomas HD, despite getting 15th in the last match, he is still leading the whole lobby in terms of damage. Almost 3,000 damage, 2nd place at 2,400 being Murstache. I mean, this guy does not miss. 300 above already. They've got that elimination, but Reason has gone down. Savage and Vidil, they fought Queasy, Swizzy, Murstache. They wanted to play for that height. They lost now both of their teammates. Savage is left alone, and at just 27 HP, a sliver of HP. One tick of surge would be all it takes, but they go down before being able to pick up those points in the late game. That is a crucial, devastating end to game 3.
And Swizzy knew that it's Chap and Teeny now on the other end of this mid-ground layer, because Merstash, he kind of kick-started all of this, finding that initial elimination onto Reason, then continuing his aggression onto Vidil, one after the next. That didn't leave Mr. Savage anywhere to run aside from into the hands of Chap, Teeny, and Squee.
That's crazy.
Cammy,
Bro, that was
Seti
crazy with the
trying to
Slack
take
it, though,
advantage of a
guys.
lot
Slay-
of the
crazy
confusion that was
Slack
starting
it.
to build. But overhead
And Cammy,
on
I
the
said to you-
bridge, cranking up.
Cammy, I said to you,
Cammy
and Kari.
wants a little piece of the pie here.
Chewy
When
Bud
the height conversation
said,
starts to take
you
place,
should have streamed me playing the
this is
Reload
definitely
Cup.
No,
one
it's
of
a very
our
low
teams
cup for that.
heavily
Defenses when I
playing
free.
Queasy.
No.
Not only did the zone not pull towards Queasy and Savage, but they ended up fighting, like you said, Talk, when it caused Cammy, Seti, and Harry to kind of take that high position once again, similar to game 1, but they have used quite a bit of materials. They might want a pullback
I know I see I play
to be able to hold this
Reload Cup
on
tree.
all the way to the last moving zone, but Pixie, Marius, and Vanya are trying to maybe even chop them down here.
Chewy Bud,
They're so close to doing
Sid,
so, this could kind of disrupt
why
them.
you not
only
watching the NA finals?
Watch NA finals
Use
after.
a lot more materials once again.
We usually start with
Cammy,
EU,
Seti, and
but
Hari,
we come
they
for our
know
work.
it
So then
can
I'll
be very
take
difficult to keep control of those teams in your underbelly of that secondary height. Malibuka,
You want me to jump to
walks
EU?
in.
You want me to jump to A?
They're not looking
You want to
for
watch NA?
pressure anytime soon
You
either.
can jump to NA right now if you want. Watch it.
Immediately taking out Keto. All eyes focus onto Teeny now.
Kinda
He's just
invested in
under
Mr.
so
Savage
much
story.
heavy
Being
fire.
off
The focal
Fixie up
point of
for a
Malabuka's
long
trio.
time, bro.
But Malabuka gonna close off their backside and now continue to tarp his way forward. Doesn't want to get caught in congestion. Mustache and Sweezy though, they've lost Queasy as a duo, a dynamic duo at that. Big elimination onto Darkkeys. That's gonna be an extended lifeline for sure. And another one for Mustache. He can't keep getting away with this. Prax shut down in the crossfire as Mustache now looking to control this secondary height. A little bit of material goes a long way for him and Swizzy.
Just getting started when you got 2 fraggers of this caliber going at it. They're able to clean up a good amount of eliminations as Thomas HD with the pre-edits, looking to see if they can even pick up a refresh. Just 11 builds onto Thomas now. Zone pulling slightly up this hill. So many trios stuck down below. It opens up that option to kind of take shots on the ones especially low on shield. Where will this pull? It's going to pull towards boxcars, so they don't have to keep elevating themselves. Good for the trios down below. Cammy, Seti, Hari doing an amazing job of maintaining height, and Marius, Vanya, Pixie now ahead of the zone.
But Marius and Pixie, they were looking a little bit low, a little bit stressed on their damage. No longer a concern though. The lobby is thinning out at a rapid rate here. Seti gonna be the first one to drop. Cammy, Hardy
Probably
still
just still in.
overhead. Seti now looking to see if he can find a point of connection. And Cammy directly overhead, just continuing to ensure that no one can threaten Poland up top. They want their Polska Gura moment, that's for sure. And Swizzy, barely any HP left to work with. Singular tag would be enough to take him out. But he has other plans. Instead, it's going to be Karama on the receiving end. Swizzy waiting for that Siphon to take over. And Swizzy just continuing to manage to squeeze his way through that pullback as well. That elimination onto Akira. They never saw it coming. Swizzy, just a madman.
Swizzy is not finished, as now that Siphon has put him back up to 50 shield, 100 HP to work with, looking way healthier than earlier. The issue is so many trios around them. Marius, though, close by. One shot could be all it takes to pick him up, as now he decides he's going to get to a less congested side of the zone. But going down, it's going to be Fredoxy with a double chug jug, making his way back in.
This was a massive risk, though, from Fredoxy. He ate so much damage from Storm. Wax has no idea, though, but Fredoxy wasn't able to close the gap. He couldn't thread the needle. He couldn't find the shot. Malabuka, Wax, they've continued to press forward in the low ground, and Pixie are now punished for it from behind. Wax takes him out. Seti, Hari, Cammy, way up in the skies, though. The zone continuing to pull over this hill face, and this is all but said and done here as Cammy, Seti, Hari just trying to spray out these last couple of remaining opponents on the low ground. Malabuka, Wax doing so much heavy lifting. They've taken out Chino, but they know what lies at the end of this tunnel. They're gonna have to deal with Poland. Poland eventually. And Seti, Hardy, Cammy, they don't want to let this
They're cooked.
opportunity slip by.
Knocked
They
Maluka
know
zone.
Score
exactly what
Jonas.
they've got in their
Set.
favor, and they are
Check
taking
your
full
Facebook.
positional advantage here. Seti closing in, Vanya cleaned up amongst
That's
the
what I'll
mess,
take my
and
Facebook soon.
Wax hoping that he can get some form of a heal off in tow. Still 5 splashes
Shit.
though for
I reach over
Cammy.
here. That's
They're
crazy.
gonna need a insane heal off for Walks if he wants to come out on top. The perfect zones for Cammy, Seti, and Hari. All they had to do was capitalize on it, and they have done it. I love to see a victory royale from this
Alright,
trio
let's
so
see.
early on.
Let's see what the
They
standings
didn't
are looking
perform
like,
to
guys. Let's see what the
expectations in
standings are
Major
tonight.
1.
This is
They've been the
game
most
4.
consistent.
Leaderboard here. Wox, Malabuka,
Let's see
Ping.
what's
I
going on. Where's Savage? Oh, Savage dropped off. Jam. Vico and Vina. I wonder if they're going to talk about
like
Vico.
watching them and my untrained non-analyst eye, they've got this high risk high reward play style, and maybe I'm wrong here because they seem to be the most consistent trio in the lobby so far. Mini
Yeah, unrelenting pressure in endgame. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's all they do. It's just constant pressure. Those pre-edits coming through yet again, always looking for something. You can even see, look at the amount of builds they have right there. They don't need all these refreshes necessarily. They can just start front side of zone, but what they're able to do is they're able to take advantage of players that aren't looking so good. They're looking in the wood. They're looking sort of a little bit weak on the backside of zone and really take advantage of their loot and, of course, their refresh. So that's what this team do really, really well, and not an ideal performance from them, of course, in a couple of the games. I think they had a 7th today in one of the games, but a nice sort of second here to clutch up this game.
I mean, I'll take the 7th if I have 2 other seconds. to
Well,
be
yeah,
honest
that's true.
with
It's
you,
not
mate.
too bad. And they're first.
If I'm
Alright,
seeing
let's
the
go
first in the
let's go
leaderboard, I'm not
next
going to be
game.
crying about
No,
the
they're
second.
boring, though. They want to be second every game.
I mean, look, it's funny because
Major finals though is the issue. You know, I'm thinking, Taco, is there gonna get kind of the
best taco.
southern kind of snowy mountain split? A lot of interesting kind of early game engagements, but so far consistency is kind of what's lacking for these trios that aren't yet in that top 10, top 5. Very impressed with Malabuka and his trio, but for Pink, Nebs, and Kiro, they're down to 10th place now. They started off incredibly strong with a 3rd, following a 19th and 11th. They're luckily, you know, uncontested, and they can play this out like they have previously. I mean, in the last week of the Div Cup Finals, we talked about it, but even though they were contested, they still got 2nd place. I mean, contested in the sense, the same thing that we're seeing now with Akira down south. It's not actually being contested, but, you know, will they be able to kind of get a similar performance? This is interesting.
This is Pump Power currently being threatened by the likes of Vico, Veno, and Felixi. An interesting trio to dance with,
Come
though.
on,
Demas,
you
Pix,
guys,
and Darm.
you guys
They
are like
no rollover
one of
team
John's
by
team below.
any
Come on,
means.
Vico.
This could be a little bit more than what
Exactly,
Veno,
they're
Vico,
getting
and
tagged.
Felixi had bargained
They're
for.
getting tagged, bro. Come
Already
on,
finding
we need to get
themselves
it together.
in a very difficult position because another team has entered the full twine. Noms of a
Oh my
They got sick of
God.
what was happening at the Big Ben tunnel. They got sick of dealing with Savage, Vidil, and Reason.
Oh,
so
just that
now
Felixi.
they're trying to thwart Veno, Vico, and Felixi's
Oh
strategy
my God, bro.
with the surprise contest last minute. Darm, Demas, Pix, they'll be able to essentially just scatter on out. They're not
Oh
in
my
the center
God,
like
Veno is
Veno,
going to-
Vico, and Flixi were.
Oh, come on,
And
guys.
it's only Vico left standing. He's gonna have to wrap back around, play for a reboot. His teammates no longer with him. Very early demise for a team that we would not have anticipated to be out so soon, but that is part of the risk involved with their current strategy. Pix, Darm, Demas, they're not gonna deal with Noms' team.
Yeah, that's the issue. I mean, they were able to kind of get out of the early games in the previous matches, but this time around, it was literally the drop spot that didn't go their way. Hawahalo, Twyan, Noms too. Now, most likely leaving Mr. Savage uncontested. This is what he was looking for. Excited to see how that plays out. But for Pixstorm and Pixstorm and Demas, this is kind of tough. I mean, they don't have the upper hand in this engagement. They're low on HP and shield, but the good news is that they made it out without getting knocked. They should be able to recuperate what they lost. And we'll look back to iDrop, Sky, and Scroll that didn't have the best of matches in the last one.
Scroll though, World of Trouble here. Some shots firing in from way out on the horizon. That's going to cause him to kind of take a moment to pause here, reconsider which direction he actually wants to approach, and he's going to opt to drop down a little
What
bit.
else has happened? Oh.
Moneymaker, F9, and Faded. Priority targets, for sure. But iDrop knows it's not just an outright key. You've got to operate with an air of restraint. Couple of surge base tags now being extended both ways. And Moneymaker, it's only a matter of time before he got lit up a little bit for it. Still nothing too heavy, nothing that they can't deal with. And they'll fall back at Outlaw Oasis. Oh, Vico.
Oh no.
Oh, Jewel too. Could potentially be another target.
I see
Jules not
Vico.
careful.
I didn't see Vico.
Oh, Vico.
What
Bit
happened?
for it. Still nothing too
I
heavy,
see Vico.
nothing that they can't deal with. And they'll fall back at Outlaw Oasis.
Oh, that's why.
Oh, Vico.
Oh no.
Oh, Jewel too. Could potentially be another target. Jules not careful. Wonder where Sandguild is at. Twy has zero concerns though. Just gonna focus up on the map farm. They've got Vico, Flixie, and Veno so separated and way out in no man's
Oh,
land.
they already got them all?
It's gonna be
That's quick.
very
Oh, that's
difficult
cool.
for them to actually leave the beach side.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're up though. At least they're on their feet, right? They've got a bit of shield now. They got a bit of loot. It was a very scary start, but they did make it out of it. It's kind of on hard mode now, but it's still possible. And with how, you know, they've been playing it out, just looking for fights. Once again, they're gonna be looking for one, but Noms, Awahalo, and Twy might be the initiators, as they know they should have the loot. I was gonna say loot advantage, but hold on a second. 4 bullets in the AR, 1 med mist. Both trios kind of in a similar situation in terms of loot, HP, and shield, so I don't even know if this is a fight you want to take.
Twy just committed so much earlier on to the initial chase up against Vico that he never really had an opportunity to properly farm anything. Fortunately, Awahalo will be able to take care of that briefly, but it's not going to be the immediate
Set.
collapse
You
that
ain't
they
come
were
online
hoping
later.
for
Yeah, man, come on, man.
against
Oh,
Vico,
please,
Venom, and
we'll
Flixie.
watch this
And not
tomorrow.
only that, but
and
so
stuff.
far north,
Watch it
Noya,
too,
Nisha,
watch
Yassen,
NA
they might
tomorrow,
decide to get
both-
involved.
Both legs of the
By
NA,
martial
I'm gonna
maneuvers,
watch it.
fighting frogs.
Second leg of the
It's a
EU.
distinctly
The soon done still.
close
We have
area
the
to where they like to drop.
get 2 more games left.
So other
Game 4 this.
teams kind of littered
This
all
is game
around,
4, so we have 2 more games.
gauging whether or not it's worthwhile to leave
Chewy,
their certain
drop some
bases,
likes
and
when
I'm
the
pressed
TikTok
to
winner,
believe
please, so we can some
it's
people
not
here.
likely. Not
Drop
likely.
like 100 likes on the TikTok, please.
Definitely not. As we look once again at Malibuca Ping and Watch, they do tend to kind of look for these shots.
I like-
in
like the
early game.
YouTube
They haven't been
video,
doing a
too,
lot of
please.
fights
Look at
so
it,
early
please.
on. It's more after the rotations come through. But the back and forths doing what damage they can. Nice little 3-piece from Malibuca. Spare shields to recuperate what they lose. Pretty standard strategy for this trio so far throughout the day.
It's common practice after a certain point for teams that when you know that you're landing near another trio, you tend to just follow the same methods of success. Building those early surge tags, F9, Fade, and Moneymaker. They'll have to pursue those opportunities elsewhere. They're trying to tackle Srapt and Hellfire. Srapt, though, incredibly low. Srapt just knocked entirely. F9, pinpoint accuracy, that's for sure. Not willing to fully commit just yet. Has to deal with Tripper and Hellfire just behind him. Doesn't want to get split from his teammate either. So Faded will get the job done. But Tripper, Hellfire, they might still want to stick around. It's very tempting because they can tell that Moneymaker, F9, and Faded, this is definitely a team that's hurting, but they're just in such a similar position. And in fact, they won't even get the choice to decide because Giras, Dinas, and Frenek completely cutting Tripper off. They've left him nowhere to run.
Yeah, now it's just a game of hide and seek. Will they find him in time, or will they just continue moving forwards as the shots continue to kind of go back and forth? For iDrop, Sky, and Scroll this time around, looking better. They take out Rickbor. And, you know, with already another 3, so 4 total eliminations, it clearly went well for them. As now they can basically just focus on kind of making their way to the later sections of the mid game.
There's just definitely a trend building, though. We've already seen Tripper a handful of times kind of relocate where this trio actually wants to land, and it's just very obvious, Takada, that all of these teams that haven't found that initial success rate, they're trying to see if they can build it elsewhere, but how beneficial can it be continuously moving your drop spot? Oof.
I mean, how beneficial is tough, because like clearly it has pros and cons. You know, you have the aspect of surprise, but at the same time, you can only study so many drop spots from the early to the mid to the surrounding areas. But it looks like they got a nice 3-2-1 onto Vanya, and this is actually going to be huge for Vico, Veno, and Flixie. With the amount of kind of extra loot and mats now they are able to pick up with that damage, they don't have to focus as much on continuing to hunt for those tags. I mean, being on this north side of the map too, close to Magic Mosses with all the heals available, they can stay in Storm as almost long as they want. As iDrop, Sky, and Scroll found the little solo hiding in a box, but huge pump onto iDrop. Luckily enough, it is a 3v1. You can only do so much.
That's just a farewell note that iDrop definitely hadn't been bargaining for. But looking back at Marius and his current predicament, seeing his teammate Vanya be eliminated at Flooded Frogs, it's forced Marius to leave, and just, you don't think about which direction you run. You know that you're just leaving. You are not trying to stick around when there is a one-man advantage and it is not in your favor. So Pixie and Marius, though, they're just gonna have to spend so much time now, and not only trying to refarm the surge damage that I'm certain Vanya had established in the first place, but just getting their teammate back in general, and doing it while there's other teams still looking to pressure you.
Moving through to Kira's Frenic and Dinas. They're looking pretty chill, to be fair. Just kind of making the rotate, but Pixie, Marius now, after losing Vanya, Vico, Veno, and Flixie. Pixie goes down as well. It's a whole different trio. Art Skill, Exuiz, and Podesai are going to be capitalizing on this situation. This is crumbling down for Vanya here.
Hey, all those teams inside that top 10 of the leaderboard especially gotta be rubbing their hands together, though, seeing that elimination feed light up with Marius's trio. This is a real opportunity to not only overtake where they were at, but really just try to build some leads. If you're Malabuka, Ping, and Wax, for example, they might not have a Victor Royale, but when they're consistently placing high enough to build the points to hold that first place position on the leaderboard, it doesn't really matter if you have the Victor Royale, right? Like, you can just keep focusing on your own strategies.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see how this kind of plays out for iDrop, Sky, and Scroll, seeing, you know, they were favorites last season, getting contested in the end, not performing as well. But now, you know, they're definitely continuing that success. Hopefully they can, you know, keep doing so, since it is 12 matches to be fully played out. This is just the start, the beginning of these finals.
I want to see a lot more, though, from Prodoxy, Chino, and Pablo, because they've essentially gotten their way. They have an uncontested Mass Meadows, or at least that's what it appears to be, with Venovico and Flixie playing around the world. Marius trying to keep the dream alive right now, though. Then Miss Grenade also has a water sprite, but Sky, iDrop, and Scroll. That's a team that loves to get
They
up close and
found
personal.
him.
That fight overwhelming, dealing with the Danes here.
Solo after solo, they're just kind of getting free pickings here. Slowly continuing to rack up their elimination counter. As we take a look at Cammy, Seti, and Harry. Once again, they've got, you know, their strat planned out. They've had it from the start of the season. Build up, get tags, farm as many heals as possible. And it's been working. I mean, they can get themselves to the late game, but now coming from that victory royale, hopefully they can continue to push themselves up. They're in 5th despite not doing it so good in the second match.
I like that from Seti. He's given the high alerts to Hari. Hey, there's a team trying to tarp their way through our territory. Malabuka is at that. So they're going to have to be very wary moving forward. Chap. He's got Strap, Tripper, and Hellfire hot on his heels. Just hoping that he can escape. Portal gonna get him out, but it might just be delaying the inevitable. What Tripper and Hellfire and Strapped wanted, though, was just this Crime City black market. They don't care where Chap is at. They might choose to pursue that one later on, but they know they've got to get a move on. They're playing like they've had a fire underneath them after that initial elimination onto Vanya Takata. They're not looking to slow their roll anytime soon here. Felix now trying to see if he can buy himself just a moment's notice longer. But Flixie, Vico especially being seasoned fighters, and just great pincer there onto Felix. He's so focused on what's in front of him, can't really keep tabs on Flixie approaching from behind. Just a classic scenario for Veno's team.
It's kind of looking like opposite of the previous matches throughout the day, though. They, you know, previously would have a very good off spawn, but then kind of fall apart in that mid-game section of the match. But now, bad off spawn into a solid mid-game. Hopefully they can do just as good of a performance in the late game. Thomas HD continuing, as you can see, to lead the lobby in damage. And, you know, I was hyping him up in the last match, but he's increased the gap even more now. You see 4,679 damage. I mean, second place is Franek with 3,500. Thomas literally leading over 1,000 damage. And that is crucial for setting yourself up without having to risk taking those fights to get that Storm Surge damage. These crouch peaks are looking insane, but, you know, they got to do, I want them to see them have a solid end game performance. They're getting to these mid games with a good amount of damage, but as you can see, the health isn't looking amazing. They haven't gotten that big point match yet. They're kind of missing that pop-off game.
Definitely a little bit stressed, and also definitely likely because of the team at Seaport City. Queasy, Swizzy, Merstash, and moving past that Titan wall essentially is going to prove a difficult feat for anyone, even some of our more experienced players. Thomas HD, though, just proving that the Mythic Drum Gun is anything but a cosmetic weapon in his hands. Certainly an impressive damage stat, no matter what the placements might be looking like.
Second good game of Vico.
And touched on it briefly, but Merstash, Queasy, and Swizzy, this is just what they do best. Just holding teams at bay here in Seaport, refusing to allow anybody to have the kind of flow that they would naturally look for.
Taking a look at what Ferdoxy's been up to. It's being in Trulex's business. As picks Demus and Darm as well, despite that kind of shaky start due to Vico, Veno, and Flixie contesting them. They did get that elimination, but it probably took them longer to loot the rest of their spot and kind of continue with their general play style off the start of the match, but looking pretty good for them so far.
It's bizarre to think, though, that Abahalo's team, last-minute surprise contesting, Vico, Veno, and Flixie surprise contest onto Pump Power might have actually helped out Veno's trio, because it prevented Demus, Pix, and Darm to want to actually fully commit to the fight. And this is a trio that we know what kind of fighting power they have amongst them. It is not going to be an easy engagement by any means.
I love the rotate potential too from Demus, Pix, and Darm there. They can go the full on congested side that's not even in the zone yet. When that zone pulls, they'll be in
292
prime
below
position,
storm
but
surge.
with so many trios holding
you're
them, it
cooked.
is
You're
quite
gonna
difficult.
die.
On the other
You're
hand,
getting
Hellfire
wrecked,
is
brother.
trapped here.
Well,
And
they
not
have
in the best of
heals over there,
positions.
look at that.
I mean, we saw what Queasy was doing at Seaport. He tends to kind of let these trios rotate in front of them and just continue taking shots at them, which has helped with doing enough damage. But when you're
You're
below
300
by
below,
334, you're not even in zone. I mean, you can take the safer route, but you're going to be punished by doing so.
They are definitely in Fortnite competitive poverty, and it happens.
Fortnite
Maybe
competitive
they can look to
poverty.
try and bounce back, but overcoming the amount of surge damage threshold that they've got to deal with as a duo is always going to be a monumental mission. That's for sure. I drop Sky and Scroll. On the other hand, 743 above. It's like a 180 sight to see. And they're just doing what they can. They don't need to get involved just yet with some of the shots being fired around them. They might begin to put a little bit of pressure to the teams behind them, though, because they want to make sure that they're clearing out a route for when they do decide to rotate and leave.
Where's
The zone
Salvage,
pulling over by
Demon's
Demon's Dojo. I don't think anybody's brave enough to actually try and take the geyser.
Yeah, it's
brave enough or dominant?
It's a risky
If you take
move,
that
all
guy-
right.
If you take that guy, guys,
see
you'll be coming down
Reason,
fast.
Vidal kind of making
Oh
their way in
my
zone last
God.
minute, but when you got a whole trio just looking back at you, you can only make it so far. Nebs, Pink, and Kiro, despite literally landing here, they are in the zone as well. Looks like they want to do an inside the zone rotate to where this zone has pulled. Kind of unfortunate for trios like Camiseti and Hari, who had a primed up position, as now the zone just pulling right back to pump power. But in the sense of kind of opening up vision, they have an incredible amount on these trios that have to rotate in. Looks like they're gonna take the earlier rotate though option instead of staying back to get those shots.
They want to make sure that they're not going to become the lobby focus. We know just how rapidly even the best looking spots can fall apart whenever the whole lobby decides to look your way. Thomas, Panzer, and Uppel, though, saw them moments ago, kind of caught up with Demon's Darm and Pix. And I believe they got at least one elimination, but they're trying to wrap around.
Guys,
the
you see
lower
Vico? Let me go back. Where's Vico being on Flixie? Where are they? I don't see them. Did they go down? I don't think they go down.
I believe they
They
got at
went
least
down.
one elimination, but they're trying to wrap around the lower side of this
They
mountain
did
face.
go
They're
down.
trying to stay out of visuals for the team on height. But down in the dirt has its own share of problems, as Swizzy, Murstache, Queasy are also trying to mastermind a way to take over the more optimal positions, but Murstache completely torn apart. Not sure if that was a solid 3-2-1 endeavor, but the double revive will bring him back into the fold. It's just the fact that Queasy, Swizzy, Murstache, they're not as safe as they once believed.
Yeah, that's not what you want to look for in these parts of the match where getting knocked just causes all eyes to go onto you. Good news is, though, the zone hasn't pulled incredibly far from them.
Oh,
The bad news
there,
is they
my
pulled to the
G's.
side,
Okay, there they
where
are.
every single player basically is, so
Okay, they got 4,000.
they
What?
capitalized so much on
Storm
that. Nico
damage?
and Flixie showing kind of the cons of
Oh,
their early game being a bit below here as well.
alright, come on.
Forced
Good
to do
knock.
what
Alright,
they
come on.
can,
Good,
but
good,
nice
good,
shots
good,
getting
good, good.
connected.
Okay.
Now they're above with a
Why
little
the
time to
hell
heal
are
back
they
up and
below?
look for that rotate.
Pump power just working against them, though. Even if they were a little bit higher up than the rest of the lobby, all these buildings, all these natural surfaces
come on, guys.
just cutting off their lines of sight. So they are pressed to try and find more damage. Either that or eliminations need to start picking up, because everybody's kind of just dogpiling inside the heart of Pump Power. And Veno, Flixie, Vico, they want to get a move on. They don't want to get caught up in the congestion that's bound to
come
start
on.
building behind them. Trying
They
to be some
guys
of the
need
first ones
damage,
towards
they
this
need
next front
damage.
side.
Oh,
They
come
know
on, you need
dealing
damage,
with
come
low ground
on.
means probably having to
6-0.
deal with iDrop's team. And in the sky, Swizzy, Mustache, and Queasy, they have wasted absolutely no time, but just underneath them, Malibuca, Ping, Walks, holding it down in that secondary height position.
Oh, they've just been too consistent. You cannot let Malibuca, Ping, and Walks get another second place or first or even just top 3. As it looks like Cammy
looking
has
at the people,
found
Vico
a
being on
refresh, but
16.
this trio not looking healthy at all. Only 15 above. Cammy fully cracked.
Okay, they're
So
below now.
opposite side of the map. They do have those water sprites to quickly heal up, but this is going to be a tough rotate.
As long as they're
Already
below
has so
Vico
many
and being on
builds, though. He
60,
could
I
opt
say.
for a pre-edit play here onto Panzer's team from behind. Instead, he's going to pause.
Okay, let's pause here, guys.
Only
Let's
for-
see where Beacon, Bean, and Flixie are. They were down there. Okay, they're down below on the front side of zone. Kind of. They're good.
Second, though, they don't
zone.
have that much time to work with. They've got to get out of the pressure zone of dealing with some of these surge ticks. Teams like Malibuca, Walks, Ping, who've done an excellent job at maintaining their surge levels, are full firing into the backside.
Vico knocked Panzer. Oh, Argo, that's good.
Just a step behind the rest. And if it's not SETI, it's going to be the lurking hands of Malibuca's team. Just
Ooh,
one by
Cammy
one,
and
picking
SETI
off these
just went
players that were
down.
trying to commit a little bit further back of zone. Veno, Flixie, just narrowly avoiding that focus coming out of Malibuca's team. But Sky and Scroll, they're just trying to see whether or not they can even maintain their footing in the first place. All these teams surrounding them,
Thomas
just
H,
trying to
just
see
above
who's more they
16.
can chop out from
They
underneath.
can't get him up.
Instead, from behind, gotta be really careful here. Don't want to lose your head in the process. And Malibuca, Ping, and Walks lurking, waiting. Sky is so weak.
Okay,
and they
Thomas
want
H is
this
down. Alright,
elimination.
cool.
They've got to
They
be
should
careful.
be able to
Shot
get
goes
Flixie.
through. Those guy gets knocked down. Vico
Looks like they got
Veno,
Flixie.
Once again, looking
Yeah, they got them
healthy.
up.
Also
Yeah, they got them
have
up.
materials.
They got them
gotten
up.
the refresh
Yes,
they needed.
Vico Veno on
Chino goes
Flixie.
down. This is massive for this trio. They need a big game to put
Yes,
themselves
come
back
on.
on the leaderboard, and this could be the one.
A win would definitely be huge here for Vico's team, but Veno, Flixie, they're just trying to tarp ahead. They're just trying to make sure that they keep their backside closed
Okay.
off as well.
Height,
because
on
they
height, on
squeeze
height. They need to chop
Pablo
height.
back. Pablo Wingo down below. Pablo just trying to see if he can even make his
Where
way
they?
forward.
The mid layer.
Kilo and
Oh, okay,
Volca
the mid
somehow
layer.
managed to get their hands on the high ground with Cringe, but they are so incredibly low. Can they even maintain it?
Come on, Vico,
Walks,
you
Ping,
can get this.
Malibuca might
Get this
want to
down.
get involved.
Yes, get it down.
He's going to be the first one trying to cut out the team.
No,
from
wait,
behind.
wait.
The chop is a success. Veno immediately
Yes!
backing up. Vico right behind him.
Yes!
They take out every player that was in the sky as now they are controlling.
Yes! And
outside of
they
this
have the
hill,
mountain too.
Continuing to
Come
shoot
on,
from
yes!
above. This is exactly what they wanted, and now they are in prime position to close it out.
Come on,
Their
cook
main
Malibuca.
issue,
Cook
their
Malibuca.
main competitor is going to be Malibuca, Walks, and Ping.
Come
They're
on,
gonna
get
go for
the-
side
get them
rotation.
down. Good one.
Shots
All right,
coming
good,
from
good,
Vico
good.
and Flixie. They saw the future. They know
Yes!
what they have to do
Come on,
to
yes.
maintain this high ground. Malibuca gets knocked down.
Yes!
Walks shortly after the
Vico
whole
Veno and
trio
Flixie.
disintegrated into the mountain.
All right, come on,
And
that's
Vico
all
and
you guys.
Flixie
Come on, that's
now
all you
looking to
guys.
close this off. It's a 3v3, but as
Oh my
Flixie
God.
What?
goes
Oh,
down,
Flixie go
Flixie
down. No,
shortly
Flixie, why you
after,
down there?
it
Why you
looks
down
like
there?
Veno
Come on.
And Vico just
Oh,
have to
okay,
take
good
a
one,
couple
guys.
shots and
All right,
finish
good
this
one.
one up.
All right, good guys.
They made it over the mountain base. That's all they had to do.
That-
And
yes,
Vico will
Vico
be
Veno and
the
Flixie.
last one
Yes,
standing,
bro.
But not for much longer. Too easy. Veno, Vico, and Flixie, what looked like a little bit of an oops-a-daisy, just turned into
Let's see
a
what's the
massive
leaderboard looks like
victory
now.
royale. They
see.
definitely needed this.
Let's see what
You know,
you do.
whenever we come to the back end of the day,
Wow, that one got them up to fourth. Okay, they're still behind. Have work to do, but fourth is about.
you're always looking at the teams towards the top, like, you know, who's going to actually be competing come game 12. And I feel very confident saying now that it's going to be these guys, right? It's going to be these guys and somebody else with the way they've been playing. It's just
We're impressed with the play.
I want to see the
Me,
second
City, and
stand,
a day two
Sands
team
will
plays
win,
for-
but they're not.
just your limbs, right?
They're not showing
You know,
us.
Thomas and them are
Wait.
similar. I think Thomas and them had like 15. These guys have 16 so far.
Yeah, they're not
But
showing
that is
us.
always going to be the
Yeah.
point of contention people will look at when it comes to this
That's
team.
right.
Even knowing full well that you still have a day two to tackle if things don't necessarily go your way, Takada, so many of these teams are just looking to leave on a good note.
Yeah, I mean, like Levin was alluding to, there's no longer that 1.5x point multiplier, so it will be more stable than we've seen previously. But in terms of Vico, Veno, Flixi, they did an amazing job going from 14th to 4th in a single match. So, anything's possible with that big pop-off game. And in terms of Pink, Nebs, and Kiro, they are 11th right now going into this match. So all it could take is one good game and it could put them in the top 5. But it's easier said than done.
If Pink had anything but the SMG there, that
Wow.
is a knock.
They land
That
that
is a
Savage's
guaranteed
spot.
knock
That's Savage's
to
spot,
start the
right?
match off
Yeah, I
with. So,
think so.
aim looking crispy. That's for sure. Veno, Vico, and Flixi, though. This is a new sightseeing for them. A little bit more directed towards that brutal boxcars terrain. Cammy, Seti, Hari, if they aren't aware, I'm almost certain that Vico, Veno, and Flixi are going to make their presence known sooner rather than later coming out of the base tunnel.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's not really any trios contesting each other around that side of the map. So are they just going to try and fight Cammy Seti? Or are they kind of, what's their game plan? We'll have to see. But Marius, Pixie, Vanya started off really strong. Now kind of going down a little bit. 8th place on the leaderboard with their most recent match where they kind of got eliminated in 26th. So didn't rack up basically any points at all. Hopefully this time around they can make it at least to the late game.
But look at how tightly they're actually working together. Vanya probably still having some trust issues after what went down in the last match. So this team not looking to take any risk. Instead, they'll look to challenge. Darkis has a full trio. Excuse me, that's already trying to fend for himself. He's gonna fully elect out of this one. And Darkis and Felix off to the side. Gonna provide a little bit of backup, and they needed to because Artie has already been cracked. Medius proving exactly why he is such a dominant fragger in the region.
Okay, Mr. Savage, you guys did a pop-up game 2. Not
Yeah, I was
bad.
wondering,
one
okay, Savage, Reason, and Vidil are uncontested now. They do have an elimination, so they're able to, at least get some shots here and there, but their major finals is set up a lot better now than how it was looking leading into the day. Despite that, though, they have quite a bit of work to do if they want to put themselves in the top 10. Look at this.
Rotro.
Look at this.
This is menacing. This is such a menacing look
What's going on?
for Vico. Flixi,
That's
and
crazy.
Veno. And Swizzy, he's so nonchalant about it too. He's just like, oh,
That-
I'm gonna go
oh
check
my
these chests. I'm gonna go
God.
farm these mats. Flixi just
Oh
barges out
my
the door.
God.
Swizzy completely trapped like a mouse in a
Oh
cage.
my
He's got
God.
nowhere left to run,
Bitch.
except into the waiting hands of Veno, Vico,
So
and
gotta
Flixi,
click
but it's
that.
not without a fight. They'll at least get the knock onto Flixi, and that could open the avenue. But instead, Mustache immediately pounced on.
Oh
We thought he was
my
gonna be the big
God.
backup needed, but Vico has other plans in.
Oh my God. That is crazy. And is it? Oh, I think it is it. That is crazy. I gotta click that, but I don't know where to clip it, bro. Like, where should I clip that? Say, that here? TikTok doesn't have a clip. Yeah. I gotta find a way to clip that. I'm gonna clip it on my phone. That is crazy. I clip that instantly. I gotta clip that instantly, guys. That is crazy. Sorry, guys, I'm not big enough yet. I gotta do my own tips. That was crazy, though. Let me jump on it. All right, we're gonna go back and get that. Like, that's crazy. Let's go in again. All right, look at this now. Let's
About
go,
it, dude.
guys.
He's just like, I'm gonna go check this chest. I'm gonna go farm these mats. Flixi just barging down the door though. Swizzy completely trapped like a mouse in a cage. He's got
my
nowhere left to
God.
run except into the waiting hands of Veno, Vico, and Flixi. But it's not without a fight.
That
They'll at
is-
least get the
wait,
knock
wait, wait,
onto
wait, wait.
Flixi, and that could open the avenue. But instead, Mustache
Wait. Why am I not seeing
immediately
it on the pitch?
pounced on. We he was going to be the big backup needed, but Vico has other plans in store. 2 eliminations
Wait, what's going on?
immediately piling up here at Seaport City, and a massive blow to Queasy.
Wait, what's
One
going on?
quick
Guys,
shot
guys,
was-
guys, wait, stop. What's going on? What's up, Julian? What's up, Julian? We're watching FNCS, bro. What's up? I don't know what's going on here. What's up, bro? I'm trying to get this clip, though. That's crazy. All right, I'm gonna go back and try to get the clip. So that's crazy. Look what they just did, guys. Look
I'm gonna
look
go
what they
check
just
this
did.
chest. I'm gonna go farm these mats. Flexi just barging down the door though. Swizzy completely trapped like a mouse in a cage. He's got nowhere left to run.
Man, I had
Except
nowhere
into the
to
waiting
go.
hands of Veno, Vico, and Flixie, but it's not without a fight. They'll at least get the knock onto Flixie, and that could open the avenue, but instead Mustache immediately pounced on. We thought he was gonna be the big backup needed.
Oh my
But
God, they
Vico
just
has
wiped him
other
out.
plans in store. 2 eliminations immediately piling up here at Seaport City, and a massive blow to Queasy.
That's
One
crazy.
quick shot was enough. They wanted to take that engagement quickly because they knew it was a 2v2, but got a little ahead of themselves. Don't know what's next for Queasy here, but for Cami Hari,
Thanks
they're
for the
getting the
like,
fight against
Gonzalo.
Cringe Kiduo. But Hari's left all alone now. They've got Volko eliminated, but the 2v1 is not an easy one to get out of.
Okay, this is so disastrous right now, though, for some of our leading teams on the leaderboard. Pari, just looking to scurry away. Cringe, Kiduo, they might have other plans in store. Cringe, starting to build up, trying to chase him out. He wants this final elimination if he can get it. He might even just opt to cut off the reboot van. But Kiduo, even with the Mythic Pump, doesn't feel comfortable with fighting Ari outright. Cringe, much healthier. He's gonna leave it up to his teammate to make sure that they can close up this fight, and nearly a comeback moment there for Hardy. But it's just not enough. Cringe and Kiduo will be the survivors, and just going to wait before playing for the reboot, because Cringe recognizes immediately after the fact Walks and Ping just too close in the vicinity. Cringe,
Oh,
he's
no.
just gonna, he has to just play next to Kiduo though. The double reboot will at least be faster. I feel so bad though for Volko and what he's about to drop into.
Will he be able to make it out? The ramps come through from Cringe, trying to do what he can to help his teammate, but didn't even
He
look
did
at
reach
him.
the
And he was
ground.
already on the ground. He almost spawned on his knees, basically in the dirt. As Walks and Ping just continue to do damage here. They don't have Malabuka close by, so they're not going to take this fight, but hey, they got the knock. It would have been nice to get the points from the Elim, but you take what you can get.
No reason to be so greedy early on. It's the third party risk that is the primary reason why we see Malabuka, Walks, and Ping leaving after finding that initial knock onto Volko. They don't need to overextend. Queasy, meanwhile, sat underneath Shining Span. And this is tough scenes. Even a mastermind like Queasy is gonna have such a tough time working his way out of this one. Khabib, Akira, Kurama, they are fully aware of the fact that there was someone sat underneath their bridge. They don't want to let Queasy go. Khabib opting to just continue chasing one direction from the next. Queasy still somehow, some way alive, despite everything.
Yep.
And
Somehow.
maybe it's Akita's team that will get the elimination credit.
check this.
Maybe
Another
it's the
honest
responsibility of someone elsewhere in the lobby now, because Queasy has finagled his way out of this one.
For how
I'm
long,
sure I get
though?
that clip, though.
As I mean, so far there's nobody else here. A little bit of extra loot, but I mean, the good news is it's kind of good and bad news. Good news in the sense that they did pull zone around Seaport. Bad news meaning that there's always going to be players around you now. So if you even want to get that reboot, eyes are going to be on you. And even be worth it to kind of go out of zone to look for it. But yeah, not fun.
Just going from bad to worse. Sorry for game 5 here in Queasy's terms. Janus for Strokey and Focus. Probably pretty happy with that elimination they just picked up. They don't mind spending a little bit of extra time inside of the Storm. So many of our teams today have opted to play this exact strategy out. The early Storm tick damage not really being much of a threat, with so many heals kind of scattered across the map. And the opportunity, again, you always have to keep your head on a swivel for those teams looking for the early reboots.
Yeah, I'm for Strokey, Janus, and Focus here. I mean, they've already positioned themselves so deep in the zone. It's kind of just like a slower, safer route here. I drop Sky and Scroll up against Marius, Vanya, and Pixie. Now, they can look for the 3-2-1 here, but gets spot on, gets caught off guard. Is this going to be a full commit? I think it is, Taco.
They don't really have much of a choice. I drop Sky and Scroll. Where they want to go next, they're going to have to clear out this team, but Hydra dropped in the process here. Pixie, Vanya, despite losing Medius, they're still holding their own. And Sky, Scroll, we've seen how well that pair can actually operate. And for good reason, Pixie and Vanya, they're just going to elect to fall back. I'd rather make a play for the reboot van over by Whiffy Wharf. 3 is always going to be better than trying to make it out as a duo, especially this early on.
Taking a look at kind of how that ended up happening. Scroll is lining up his shot there. Big pump. But for Swizzy and Merstash, they are back in the game. Once again, Queasy did choose to go outside of the Storm despite being in to get that safe reboot at Kappa Kappa. And this is kind of where it begins, right? This is where the hard mode
Storm Surge
starts.
They lost all their damage. They
have to find everything. Already at 3rd zone, they need to get their loot, they need to get their tags, their mats, and they have such a limited amount of time. Sometimes you just have to kind of set yourself up for a refresh. How do you find that refresh? As maybe just farming and looting won't be enough.
But when you think about the other teams in the lobby, have to direct your focus towards Thomas, Panzer, and Upple, because they're not going to have to worry about Queasy, Swizzy, and Merstash holding things down inside of Seaport City. They're actually going to be the ones fully in control of the way that these southern position teams are actually making their way into the next zone. Could be a big part of the reason why we see Thomas HD holding things down, and that Mythic drum gun, he's been packing quite a punch with it all day long. And when you are Queasy's team and you're stuck at Kappa Kappa and you have to find damage, surely Thomas knows it. He's more than happy to stick around. He can even spot out that there's still at least some form of a team in Seaport, but he's got his eyes targeted already towards that direction from Kappa Kappa. You have to anticipate that that's Queasy.
And you know, when he's got the drum hunt gun in hand, this is just not where you want to be as Queasy's trio. As scuffed as they are, now forced. I mean, Thomas, Panzer, and Upple have so many heals, they can just sit there. Basically until Queasy and them get eliminated to Storm, so we'll see how that one plays out. It's going to be a slow one, I'm sure. Vico, Venom, and Flixie, though. Solid start.
They're also not the only team close by to Seaport, but other teams don't seem to want to stick around. Can't blame them. Vico, Flixie, Venom, we're going to start heading towards the rooftops, also making use of the vending machines available inside of Seaport, but Fnatic might have gotten mixed up with Mr. Savage's team. Marius, Pixie, Vanya also still having to deal with Tripper potentially. Cranking their way up the hill face. So many of our leading teams just in these awkward positions across the map.
Whoa. Yeah, I mean, some of them calculated, though. I mean, if I'm Vanya, Marius, Pixie here, I'm not focused on getting to zone super quickly. You've seen them time and time just kind of playing these Storm battles. And once again, what they kind of want to focus on is just not getting eliminated, right? After going down 26 in the last match. Just kind of want to take shots on the people rotating through, continue to see how these zones play out, continue to wrap around. And, you know, if they get enough damage here, then they should be good by just wrapping around the least congested side of the zone. Around side the water on the left side here, but got to be careful. The tags are coming through. I mean, Vanya almost getting cracked. Just a matter of time.
They also just don't want a repeat of what happened in Major 1. They were so close to having that global championship spot fully locked in. And the lights were just too bright in the final hours. But more slots opening up for Major 2 finals. And that's a seat on the battle bus that Vanya, Pixie, and Marius, everyone is expecting them to live up to the hype this season and find that global championship qual. It can put a lot of pressure indirectly, and yet, so far today, they have managed to deliver.
Championship quals. I want to see Queasy take home a major. I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen Queasy win an FNCS, but you know, odds are in his favor this time around. I think it's been 2 chapters, literally. But they've made it into the zone despite being held by Thomas, Uppel, and Panzer. But now, guess what? You got a whole other trio once again from the start of the game. Vico, Veno, Flixie. Got to be the ones taking shots onto them. They just cannot catch a break. But it's even, honestly, a miracle that they're still alive at this point. But being 263 below, I think literally their only option is going to be take this fight, and this is not going to be an easy one to win.
Look, this is Queasy's backyard, and they've got to try and duke their way out of it.
Come on, Vino. Vino got cracked.
Because you're right, that 207 below damage threshold, 2-3 eliminations would be
why did they play so fast? Come on,
for this team. And Merstash.
Oh, Queasy went down. Okay, oh, Merstash and alright. Oh, and it's done. Oh, yes, Vico. Whoa, good shot.
In favor of Vico's team, and they're just closing in onto Merstash. Nowhere left to run. A clean wipeout at Seaport City, which is going to set up Vico, Veno, and Flixie excellently for the remainder of this match. Probably more than happy. They knew exactly what they were getting by sticking around here at Seaport. They knew Queasy would be way too tempted to revisit his starting point.
It was difficult for Queasy, though, to come out on top, to be fair. All odds were against them. Now 2 of our top 5 trios are out of the match before we even get into the late here. Just opens up much more of an opportunity for the trios on the borderline to make something happen. Frankie was talking about it on the desk. There's 5 global championship spots up for grabs, but we've already got 2 of the trios that qualified last major in that top 5, so it's basically top 7. And now's the kind of opportunity to push yourself into that top 7 with a lot of these top trios having gone down so early. As I love the rotate coming through.
It's a crazy rotate.
Chino and Pablo, yeah. I like it, though.
They've got so much damage above the threshold, though. And by making this approach from that dead side of zone, Takata, they'll also be able to probably box up on some of these hills. Maybe even take advantage of any teams that might be looking to pay a visit towards Rift Island. Just steadily keeping their heads above water, that's for sure. Sky, eye drop, scroll, though. Much different story at Pump Power. Decent amount of congestion now starting to pool from that western edge of zone. Sky drop and scroll, though. They're just making sure to keep looking back. Ping Walks and Malabuka could be in a world of trouble here on this next rotate. They're getting a little bit sandwiched between Fincheck's team and Sky's. Zara also definitely wishing that they'd gotten a move on a little bit sooner, but it's tough when you got to go cross country for some of these zones.
I drop Sky and Stroll cannot afford another game where they go down early. They got 3rd and 4th in the first 2 matches, but 13th and 21st in the most recent. They cannot keep going down before making it to this late game, but Sky's going to be able to pick up some much needed tags. As we look on over at Marius and Vanya, they've lost Pixie, but in the close quarter combat, back and forth engagements, I mean, they get the damage they need, but Vanya has no shields. They're kind of split up here. Sangeld knocking on the door, wanting some of the action. Now long rotate to go as well. This is not looking too bright for Vanya and Marius.
Just the worst kind of neighbors. People that you don't want boxed up next to you. People that are already boxed up above you. Misha trying to get some suppressive fire onto those lower layers, trying to get a little bit of extra damage if possible. Demas, Darm, and Pix, though, they're already making sure to try and scale some of those mountain faces. Good deal, Reason and Mr. Savage, same mentality in mind, but they're just a step behind the rest of this lobby. They might become the focal point if they're not careful. Gonna opt to use, get that gold rush effect from their splashes. This could be a big fight, though, for Vidil's team to clean up on. They recognize it.
Yeah.
Vanya largely leading the charge on this one, trying to get the final knockoff onto Peterbor, who's looking to escape, but Vanya, he just has to keep reloading. He doesn't have any ammunition.
Where's
At
Marius?
least not for those initial shots. And he does finally get the elimination he was after from the start. It's just so much time expended, and the clock is ticking against him.
Marius got the siphon, but it wasn't enough. It's a long route back in for iDrop, Sky, and Scroll, though it's looking like once again they get taken out. 20th. This is not where they can... They just cannot keep getting eliminated here if they want to hold the position.
Game 5.
Third
Right
place
now,
now, probably bumped out. You only have 2 trios in the top 5 still up. And one of them, Vico Venoflixi, literally clutched themselves back into it in the last match. This is going to be a big shakeup in terms of the leaderboard, depending on how this one plays out.
Did catch a glimpse, though, of Panzer, Uppel, and Thomas in a much separate corner for the rest of the zone. All those other teams that are going to start getting caught amongst each other. This could be the prime time to strike. Thomas has so many builds, decent amount of shield to work with. Can almost expect that Panzer and Uppel are in very similar predicaments, and sure enough, kind of just looking for openings. Frenek exposed for a moment, that's all they need. Couple of nice tags in, shields have been cracked, but Uppel doing a great job at making sure that he either follows up with his team or looks down from a separate angle entirely, just to ensure that no one is challenging their current position. Still, at some point, they're going to have to deal with Chicho and Atris up at height.
Yeah, if the zone pulls towards them as well, that is going to be a perfect high ground for them to hold, if this next zone is that half in, half out, where half the zone is in the zone, half is out. Vico Venoflixi, though, doing a great job, continuing to take shots on the trios that have to kind of rotate up the mountain in a sense. So doing the damage, doing what you can, but now for these next 10 seconds, it's locking in. Wherever the zone pulls, you gotta be ready to act quickly. As now, it's just a matter of time before either Chicho or Horace are very happy or very sad as Savage goes down.
Savage, oh my god.
Savage fans are definitely depressed witnessing that one. But that's not to say that Vidil and Reason couldn't make some magic happen here. Vidil was hoping to get the shot, instead he had to go for the reload, 61 below. He's just so stressed for time. He'll at least be able to get one layer up, but he can't afford another tick of Surge, and sure enough, shut down before he even really has a chance to begin. Reason will try and play out the last of this Chug Jug, trying to see if he can buy a little bit more placement spots, but it's just not enough. Too much pressure coming in from the underbelly of Demon's Dojo. Vico, Flixi, Veno, they're gonna start working their way out from all these pre-existing builds, just breaking through whatever layers they have to. For Doxy, Thomas, both of these teams had elevated themselves prior to all of these blows taking place in those mid and lower layers, and it might be paying off tenfold, at least for Thomas's team.
Oh yeah, despite only being 16 above, they are in prime position to find more shots. You can see how many trios are staggered behind. The ones up above are capitalizing on that. Almost 1,000 damage. This is perfect for them, but they have to be ready to continue building forwards depending on where this zone goes. But so far, nobody seems to be contesting it.
Sometimes everything just clicks, but Noya definitely aware of the fact that you can never get too comfortable on height. Meanwhile, Thomas just spraying all the teams trying to approach from the backside of zone. And he's done a decent job at taking some chunks out of Pig's HP bar. Might have even cause some serious issues for that trio. But you can't stay fixated on the same spot for too long. You've got to get a move on when it is
Where's Vico? Venom, let's see where they are. Oh, they're there. Okay.
dealing with hoistering up on these elevated positions, and Noya nearly getting chopped at his demise there. Misha and Yasin now gonna look to play fallback.
Chewy
The
bot.
height control is what they're
Yeah.
after. It's just dealing
NA
with a
getting
swarm
heated.
of teams underneath them.
Oh man, I watch it
Don't just
tomorrow,
pull
man.
too far. I don't
I
think
watch
they
it.
have the mats to
That's me
continue
ask if you want me
with
jump to
that
any.
height
You
control.
know, I say if you want me
So
jump to
many
any.
trios
I'm asking if you jump on TikTok and
Big
get so
Venom
right.
Flixie being one of
Peter
them,
got a quick
but so
stride
far
right
they're
now.
focused on getting that damage.
Set.
They
Another
know
one.
They can potentially
Peter
look
with
more. They have their
claws high,
priorities
yeah.
straight. Shots coming through to the players down below, looking
I
to
switch
see
it in it?
what they can find. Such
Man
a
must
difficult
finish-
zone.
man must
The
finish
hold on
eating it up.
above, so Venom
Bucks.
drops down. Big crack coming through. They have to regroup.
Chewy bot.
Thomas HD up above still.
Set.
Akira gets knocked down by Venom.
I just
His
came
whole
back,
trio
let's go to
without
NA.
shield though. They have to
Alright,
regroup
come on.
and build up that shield again.
We have to start NA from the beginning. You know, what do NA tomorrow? What do NA tomorrow?
And while
Let's go finish this. Got many church boys at this Sunday
just not
morning.
worked out, and Volko, he tries to
Alright,
drop.
and then
Instead,
do
he
it,
gets
yeah.
eliminated for it. Thomas Uppo Panzer
Ooh.
now dealing with the former leaders of height, but Thomas, he's getting absolutely pounced upon. Noya's team just dealing so much damage.
Alright,
Misha
Thomas with the
has
surge.
fallen. Thomas will get the siphon, but he needs an opportunity to
Indeed,
heal,
a
and
good
he
one,
won't be able to find it
Thomas.
just yet. But another siphon with that elim onto Noya just extends a moment longer.
Chug splashes, Chug Jug, everything needed to stay in the zone. Thomas should be able to make it back, but it looks like up above in the clouds, the high ground is looking secure. The issue is, once again, they cannot be stopped.
You got
Malibuka
murked
Pig
them.
and Walks prime position ahead of zone on the low ground. All three players up. Incredible amount of materials, shields, loot, everything needed to continue to close this one
Vico
out.
Venom
But
fixed it
Pig,
there.
Nebs, and
On
Kiro,
the
they
front
weren't
side
in
as well.
qualifying range for the Globals going into this match. They were outside of that top 10. This win could mean everything to them.
This is their conversion opportunity. Kiro, Nebs, Pink, they don't want to let it slip through their fingers. Vico, Veno, they're going to have to power through this, though, as a duo. Flixie having been eliminated in all of the mayhem that's unfolding inside of these low ground layers. Veno, Vico, split for just a moment. Demas right above, but he's not going to go through the floor just yet. He's not going to look for that seize opportunity of another elimination. Walks, Ping, Malibuka, one of our only healthy-looking trios in this lobby, and they might be able to extend that one pace further if they can get this elimination onto Cringe. He's building for his life. Surely his materials are running thin, but it doesn't matter because
Box,
Malibuka is taking
white them.
Pablo
Vico take another kill.
finally
Vico the skin
collected
them.
in the crossfire here, and now Malibuka, Walks, Ping, they're just back up above, staring directly
Vico,
into Cringe.
Hero, the only
Good
one
night.
up above now.
Oh, Vico,
Both
Vino
of his
is with them.
teammates went down, as now he's forced to make that decision. How is he going to play this one out? One Chug Jug in the inventory, but does he know there's a full trio down below looking healthier than ever? Chug Jug gets picked up, Water Sprite in hand. Has he already begun the heal off as now the hunt
Uncooked.
is what's going to continue? Cringe
Uncooked.
down below, just one shot away, but Walks knows he has to take this position from the player up above. Chug Jug being used. Malibuka's gone down. It's now a two-person game.
But there's still
2v2.
so much Chug Jug left to work
Oh, wait,
with, and
it's whatever
Kudo,
him.
he's only a solo. He's getting
Hero
chopped right
there.
now as we speak. Walks, Ping, have they got what it takes to find the first victory royale of the day for this trio? Cringe, scrambling as he may, he will finally be eliminated. And Kudo,
Let the heels
all the
apply.
way inside the storm,
No drop down
he's gonna
window.
make a leap of faith here, see if he
Window.
can cause some disruption. But it's a 2 versus 1 Takata, and it's one that Ping and Walks are gonna win. Victory royale finally setting in here. Try and play catch up, or even just stay close in the first place.
Their loop path and rethink a few different
Vico Vina clicks to the second now. Yep. Makes sense. They're 100 points behind, but not now.
of what they're doing, so they're going to really look back at what they're doing in terms of their loop path and rethink a few different things. But I mean, this was great.
Yeah, this was
You know, I'm gonna speed
You
through the
playing
last
there,
fight,
kinda.
the last match and see
Royale,
who win, and then jump to
Elevate
NA.
themselves, right?
Where they are currently sat at is a very nice spot to be.
Pablo did an amazing job of tarping ahead while
Really nice. See, Vanya was able to stay
And collected, picking off teams, picking off solos and duos, isolating players so perfectly.
Okay, let's see.
Played all around.
So they got Marius for the
Marius.
last win. Okay, they just did the
Playoff six
leaderboard and
coming
then jump.
At the odds for
We're just gonna speed through this and go to NA,
Marius, we
guys.
expected big things for them, but I don't know.
Them at the start. Really
I wanna see the standings before I go.
going AWAR teams.
Come
were
on, let's
easy
show me the
game.
standings.
Mates, of course, dropped on down.
Alright, let's see. Alright. Where's Reconvene on Flixie? Wait, where the hell did they go? Did they die? Wait, they had 290. Okay, 290. Oh, damn. That's a big
Down. Really nicely played.
jump.
Is and not
Are they gonna show us
Making
the top 20?
Ideally, those
talk about 5 in the on the
Can I see the
11.
top 20?
Things
These people don't care about anybody
yeah, I
below
was
the
really
top
hoping the fact
10.
they got land bomb him of height winning.
Can I see the
see.
top 10, bruh? Stop
trio,
the talking.
you know,
the leaderboard big.
Can I
Yeah.
see the next side of the leaderboard, please?
Because Malibu.
I
they
can't
are
see the
looking
next side of the leaderboard.
How
Alright, screw it. Let's go to NA, guys. Let's go to NA. Screw it. Well, they're not showing me the next side of the leaderboard. Let's do it. Alright.